kick from 54 yards. We're good. Let's hand the ball off with no timeouts and 40 seconds to go. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get into the Chiefs and Raiders coming up tonight. Monday Night Football. We got college football to get into. Field Yates, Mick Shaffer, all still to come right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're in the zone.
Perfect sports radio right there. That's great. It's awesome. Worst thing ever. Dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
With Jason Anderson.
I kind of agree with both.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
913-912-4810. Text says, I saw the flag on Tom Brady's sack and was wondering, when did we trade Chris Jones to the Falcons?
This was a whole domino effect going back to the Chiefs-Patriots game.
Yep.
I had almost completely removed this from my memory.
I put it out of my mind.
That it was before halftime, I think, of that game. Because D Ford is the last memory.
No, it was in the fourth quarter.
Was it the fourth quarter?
It was the Chiefs were leading. It would have brought up I only remember this now because I've seen the replays on Twitter so many times. 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs were up by 4, and it was about to be 3rd and 7 because it was an incomplete pass.
It would have forced 3rd and 7.
It would have,
it wasn't a drive into.
It would have forced a 3rd and 7. Chiefs up by 4 with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Instead, they got 15 yards and a first down because he touched his shoulder pad.
Because Chris Jones attempted to behead Tom Brady. Please at least state the facts accurately.
You don't karate chop Tom Brady.
He tried to karate chop Tom Brady in the throat, rip out his esophagus, and then eat it, which was really really ineffective and defensive, frankly. I'm glad he was penalized and summarily arrested after the game.
I was going to say he should have been kicked out of the game, disqualified for that. That was unnecessary roughness.
In every sense of the word.
Absolutely. I also appreciated Tom Brady attempting to kick Grady Jarrett, and yet he gets the 15-yard penalty for unnecessary roughness.
Laid down like Sleeping Beauty on the soft turf beneath. And on the way up, attempts to kick Grady Jarrett in the nards, and then proceeds to, though he does not throw the flags as he so summarily brought up after the game. No, he sure does spend a lot of time asking for them, though. Baiting the flag call, forcing Jerome Boger to defend the flag post-game. The shield is tarnished by Tom Brady getting a call literally just whenever it's convenient. Just whenever he wants. Just whenever he feels like it.
I feel like that was the same motion as like when my son falls asleep in the bed to my right and I sleep at the right side of the bed and I grab him and roll him over to the left side.
Yep.
That was sort of the same because as Grady Jarrett got to the end, it looked like he was holding him up a little bit.
Yes. Tom Brady landed on Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
It was not only was it the, hey, don't put your weight on the defender. It was, hey, defender, just take the quarterback's weight. Make it gentle.
And you know what? In the same way, when my son's asleep like that, he sort of like reacts and he kicks. So it was the same thing. I'm moving him and he's like, what? And he sort of flails his body and kicks me, tries to kick me in the nards. I lay him down gently and then my wife yells at me. Like, here we go. Same thing. Same thing.
You are the Grady, and then you start cursing your son out as you do, as if you were Chris Jones to Matt Ryan. You really bring it all together.
That's exactly right.
You mother bleeper.
913-912-4810. 913-912-4810. We'll talk some Chiefs and Raiders and hear from Chris Jones.
I wish this didn't make me as mad as it does. I wish I was a more well-adjusted person that could let Tom Brady penalties go.
Anytime the offseason I talked about that I wasn't a believer in the Bengals, it's told sour grapes. Right, I mean, they, obviously Solomon Wilcots and I had quite the low-key point-counterpoint general discussion you would always hear on sports radio.
Hard to pinpoint a winner in that one.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, he would say whoever had the most points, no matter what, is the better arguer.
Yeah.
And I said in the offseason, like, depending on what the offensive line looks like, the Bengals can be pretty good. What do they do when teams start to adjust to their big plays the way that the teams did with the Chiefs? And the offensive line has not been good. It's one of the reasons why I took the Ravens -3, because I am not a believer in the Bengals at all. I don't think they're all that good. I think their defense is okay, and I think their offense is just broken. Whenever I mean, here's the thing. It's you hand off to Joe Mixon and it seems like it's an inefficient play, or you pass the ball and you give no protection to Joe Burrow, you protect with 5 guys, and the offensive line isn't good, and Burrow holds the ball a long time, and you get a sack or pressure, and your drive stops. The Bengals are seeing too high looks now. The Ravens blitzed last night 2% of the time. Wink blitzed 2% of the time. They played too high. And you saw what happened with Jamar Chase. They couldn't figure out how to get him involved in the game. It was Hayden Hurst in the tight end. I mean, he was the one, and Joe Mixon on the ground was, somewhat successful after the first quarter, but they were clearly missing T. Higgins. That matters.
Yes, definitely.
Because as we know, Joe Burrow is only a product of his receivers, just as Patrick Mahomes was only a product of Tyreek Hill. They tried and tried and tried to get Jamar Chase involved, and it really didn't work. Anytime they got one-on-one, they're like, we're throwing to Jamar Chase. Now, they got a couple penalties that were there. Yep, that helped. Actually, who's the defensive coordinator for
Mike McDonald.
The Ravens? Yeah,
I was waiting. I knew that Wink was no longer there.
As soon as I said it, I'm like, I don't think he's in Baltimore anymore.
No.
Where is he at?
He was in London this week, making Aaron Rodgers' life a little bit of hell.
Oh, he's in London.
He's with the London Giants.
You sound like you're from London.
Well, that was challenging. Because
as soon as I said that,
you said honestly when you were like, and they've only blitzed 2% of the time, or two times. Wink. I was like, no, Jason. Come on,
I was saying
Wink Martindale. Martindale would never.
No, I was saying wink. They're not blitzing. That's what I was saying.
That's good.
Yeah, that's
actually
right.
We're blitzing.
That's right. By the way, looking at the text line now. Wink's not in Baltimore.
Wow, they got you quick.
Yeah.
This is a good. Okay, here's a learning moment. You said Wink, and I was like, all right, well, he's not there anymore, but I couldn't remember who it was, so I literally right now have Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator page up. Mike McDonald plans to stay aggressive. But I had that, and I've had this on my screen for, 20 or 30 seconds. And I was going to wait until you kind of came back down with the ball and collected, or the ball bounces off for a rebound or whatever. And within the time between you saying Wink and you going, that couldn't have been right, was it? Apparently 500 people texted in. So quick trigger fingers on the text line. Sometimes Jason talks with a lot of commas and semicolons.
Yes.
That make it, I don't want to. I will correct you. Or just full colons. I will correct you, but I don't want to do it mid-sentence.
No, I appreciate that.
So I think that might be sort of whatever the debacle we had a couple weeks ago was. I think this might be kind of us figuring out the timing of that. And if the text line gets to you first, maybe you'll see it,
I want to throw this out there, and then we'll take a break, talk Chiefs. We'll hear from Chris Jones. He talked on Saturday.
Or you can give me the big buzzer, and I could just hit that as soon as you make a mistake. I bet that wouldn't get self-destructive at all.
No, not at all.
That would never get under your skin.
What we talked about last year with the Chiefs, that's what the Bengals are going through. Joe Burrow, when he goes up against non-shell too high defenses, so when they're not running what is the in vogue thing in the NFL, non-too high looks, Joe Burrow, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 112 quarterback rating. Against too high looks this year, the Bengals offense has a negative 0.1 expected points added. Burrow has 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, and a 67 rating against too high looks. They are now trying to figure out
Has the NFL solved Patrick Joe Burrow?
Have they figured out the Bengals and Burrow? Have the defenses burrowed in and not allowed them to go over the top anymore?
Just simply don't blitz Joe Burholmes. That'll be good, though. At least they can use all the same bottom third graphics and everything and just change the Chiefs logos to Bengals logos.
Absolutely. 913-912-4810. We'll take a timeout. We'll talk Chiefs. This text says, I sit there during the whole segment waiting to correct Jason.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Snags. Spags was talking about Sneed. Snags was talking about speed.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beards. We will talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. We'll talk some college football in the 11 o'clock hour, some NFL. We continue with that with Chiefs and Raiders going on tonight. So, breaking news.
Per James Palmer, the Browns released quarterback Josh Rosen from the practice squad.
Thank you for that.
I just wanted. I believed in Josh Rosen. I mean, it was a long time ago. But at one point, I believed in Josh Rosen.
With his skinny shoulders.
Yeah, I just didn't like that. I just didn't like that people were giving him crap for having interests outside of football. And so I was like, but that's not going to be why he doesn't succeed. And it wasn't why he didn't succeed. It was because he wasn't very good at playing quarterback.
That's right.
He also had 1,000 head coaches. Did you see that Baker Mayfield now, I believe, is going to be on head coach number 6 or 7? He's having more head coaches than he's had playing years.
Wow.
I'll circle back here.
That is, because he's had 2 his rookie year. Was Hugh Jackson fired his rookie year?
They would have gotten the number 1 overall pick.
He came in for Tyrod Taylor, and then was Hugh Jackson fired his rookie year? I don't know. And then they, had interim stuff with Kitchen. If you can't stand the baker, get out of the kitchen.
Baby Freddie Kitchen.
All right, so the Chiefs' run defense is number 1 in the NFL. Number 3 in yards per attempt given up. Number 1 in total yards as well. Chris Jones was asked about the defense. This is on Saturday when they had the press conferences. Andy Reid's press conference was roughly a minute and a half, and it was just injury-related. Juju Smith-Schuster had a tight hamstring, and so he was limited on Saturday.
6 head coaches, by the way, for Baker Mayfield. I know this is an awkward interjection.
What is it?
Hugh Jackson, Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchens, Kevin Stefanski, Matt Rule, Steve Wilkes. That's 6 head coaches in his 5th NFL season.
Wow. That's amazing.
He might not be very good, but he has not gotten a lot of help.
Unbelievable. So Juju Smith-Schuster was limited at practice with a hamstring that tightened up, but Andy Reid also said he'll be fine. So expected to play. Harrison Butker will not play, so it'll be Matthew Wright again. I'm concerned about that because the second game of the free agent kicker got the Chiefs the last go-around, so hopefully the second game of the free agent kicker doesn't get the Chiefs this go-around, but Butker will not play. Chris Jones talked with the media as well and was asked about the defense, and he says that the defense still has room to grow.
We still can be better. We got room for improvement. But that's what it's about. It's a marathon. This league is a marathon, 17 games, and we want to continue to get better week in and week out. That's a lot we can learn from, a lot we can build on, and we continue that. By the end of the year, we'll be wherever we want to be with this defense, but no complacency.
You always love when they're playing so well, and it's like we've got so much room to improve. It's one thing when it's like, they're ranked 28th in the NFL. Of course you got room to improve. What's wrong? Why are you guys sucking? What's the issue? Do you have anything you can hang your hat on? Because then at that point, they're like, look, we got to fix this, we got to fix that. Obviously, there's room for improvement. Okay, you guys have been so good. What do you see from this defense? Yeah, we can still improve. There's plenty of things we got to get better at. I'm glad the follow-up was this because it got us the most interesting part of the press conference from Chris Jones, and it was, look, you guys are number 1 in the NFL in rushing yards allowed. Why has the rushing defense been so good, Beards? Why has the rushing defense been so good?
Why would Beards know the answer to that question?
Listen, I told everybody, I've been in this system 4 years. They asked what's changed. Joe Cullen, his demeanor, our game plan, the way he brings the best out of us individually in the defensive line group. And, we harp on that. We take accountability to stop the run. That's high priority on our list. And it gives us the ability to rush the passer once we stop the run. So force teams to pass the ball and do what we love to do most and get after the quarterback.
Chris, can you be specific how having Joe Cullen here has helped you? Feel like he's helped your game?
Yeah, that's a competitive group we got in there. We got a lot of guys that's coming back. We got a lot of familiar faces. We got George Karlaftis, a rookie. But everyone else is got Carlos Dunlap, his leadership, and things he brings to the room. We got Frank Clark, and then we got a lot of guys who is competing for different things in our room. And Joe Cullen brings the best out of us. He challenges every day. Has this thing that he called the wagon, and basically you got to lead every drill, challenge the group. And, we got Colin Sanders as the wagon right now, and he's doing an exceptional job. But that's what it's all about as a group, being competitive, challenging each other, and making sure we're getting the best out of each other.
Why has the defense been so good? Joe Cullen. Look, I've been in the system 4 years. What's the difference? Joe Cullen. It's great to hear. It was a respected hire in the offseason when they made that decision to hire him as the defensive line coach from the Jags as a D coordinator. But, he was also done in by a bad coach. But it certainly has made this defensive line look different. Chris Jones has the best, grain of salt, PFF, the best run defense grade of his career so far in the first 4 games. That seems to add up to what we've seen on the field.
Highest pass rush win rate for a defensive tackle on ESPN's metric.
There you go.
Aaron Donald's in that group.
That's pretty good. And the wagon. What's the wagon? Colin Sanders is on the wagon right now, or Saunders. We'll find out what the wagon is on the other side of the break.
Just don't call him Kalen.
No.
Hey, KC, this is Jack Johnson from the show.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've got control of all these knobs over here.
Wow.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Field Yates coming up an hour from now. 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810. News of the day. Juju Smith-Schuster expected to play tonight. He was limited in practice on Saturday. Tight hamstring. Andy Reid said he should be fine. And Tom Pelissero reporting that Juju Smith-Schuster will play tonight. Against the Raiders, Matt Rule has been fired by the Panthers. Game number 5 in year number 3. He is owed, roughly $40 million.
Unbelievable. The greatest job in sports, being a fired head football coach.
If you can be good enough to get the job
Yes.
to be fired is all you don't have to be good enough to succeed at the job. You just have to be good enough to get the job. This tweet from Myles Garrett, different Myles Garrett from TV. This guy works in
I mean, technically, Myles
Atlanta.
Garrett is also on TV.
That's
You
true.
also said Myles Garrett, and I got really excited for this tweet,
Yep.
so edge of my seat.
He works in a TV station in Atlanta. First-time NFL head coaches hired directly from college coaching jobs since 2000. Butch Davis, Steve Spurrier, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Schiano, Doug Marrone, Chip Kelly, Bill O'Brien, Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Petrino, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Matt Rule. Harbaugh was good.
Yeah, and did Chip Kelly work for like a minute?
With the Eagles,
Like the first 2 years or something.
They like made the playoffs, but didn't
Yeah.
get too super deep, right?
And now he's back putting in work at UCLA.
Yeah, so one more time on that list.
I don't know the order he is using.
Sure.
So I'm not sure, but Butch Davis, Steve Spurrier, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Schiano, Doug Marrone, Chip Kelly, Bill O'Brien, Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Petrino, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Matt Rule.
At least 3 of those were Jags head coaches.
Was Marrone's first job with Jacksonville?
I think so. He definitely ended up there at some point.
And obviously Urban Meyer was.
And there was somebody before Doug Marrone. Who was right before Doug Marrone that you said?
Greg Schiano.
Did Greg
I
Schiano
don't
coach
remember.
the Jags at some point? I feel like there were 3 Jags coaches in that
I
list.
feel like Schiano was the Bucks. Was Schiano with the Bucks before Bruce Arians?
I think Greg Schiano
Beards,
might
what
have
do you
ended up
think?
being a.
I think he needs to worry about Lance Leipold going to the Jags.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think NFL teams probably need to worry about hiring college coaches to come in and be the saviors for their teams because they're doing a good job in college. Now, Matt Rule will be very coveted, and I think he should be coveted by rebuilding teams. I think Nebraska and Auburn. Now, most teams that are firing their coach are, kind of rebuilding. But Nebraska, it's been a while since they've had success. I don't know that Matt Rule would be successful at Nebraska. But I do think he was set up before he took the Carolina job to then have a run at Baylor of success. From 1-11 to 7-6 to 11-3. And then he takes the Carolina job. So he clearly did a good enough job in rebuilding. Temple, 2-10, 6-6, 10-4, 10-3. That was before Baylor. So his 2 head coaching jobs in college at Temple in the 4 years, 2-10 to 6-6 to 10-4 to 10-3. Then he takes the Baylor job, 1-11, 7-6, 11-3. So he has shown in both of his stints at different levels that from year 1 to year 3, he can go from winning 1 or 2 games to double digits. In the AAC and in the Big 12. So he will be coveted, and we've seen coaches then return to college and be really good. Chip Kelly, we talked about that. Nick Saban, obviously, has been pretty awesome
What has
since
he done?
returning to college. Steve Spurrier, successful when he returned to college from the NFL.
I think
Bobby Petrino was awesome at Arkansas, or was it seemed like was heading in the right direction at Arkansas before he headed in the wrong direction on the motorcycle.
Cliff Kingsbury is going to be there probably pretty soon.
But
Bill O'Brien will definitely be a head coach in college again soon.
But how successful was Kingsbury before that you would go, oh, are you going to win the Cliff Kingsbury sweepstakes? Because somebody's got to get Kingsbury in there to go 6-6. If you want your program to go 6-6, then hire Cliff. If you want him to win over the moms, but the players actually choose a different school, hire Cliff Kingsbury.
If you want a guy who has touched the hem of Patrick Mahomes' cloak, hire Cliff Kingsbury. That's basically the logic as I
exactly
understood it at the time.
But yeah, Bill O'Brien. Is he still at Alabama in the?
I believe so.
Yeah.
In the head coach rehab role.
Yeah, coach rehab.
The get your life right role. Yeah.
That's right. And Jim Harbaugh, returning to college, successful. Hasn't been what people thought it was going to be at Michigan. But from what he was or where Michigan was before Harbaugh to where they are now and winning double digits every year, I'd say that he certainly improved that program to at least get him back to where people are talking about the playoffs, talking about maybe beating Ohio State. And some of the, like Greg Schiano, is he at Rutgers? Is he back at Rutgers now?
Yeah. Because he tried to fight Ryan Day a couple weekends ago.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out. I saw that there was like a near head coach fight.
I think he would win. I'll take Schiano in that fight.
I agree. But there was a head coach fight going on. I was like, who are the head coaches fighting right now? I think it was Ohio State Rutgers. Who's the head coach at Rut? And I got like halfway through the Google search. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Oh yeah, Greg Schiano will fight anybody anytime.
He was the Tennessee coach for like 5 minutes. And then there was a revolt all around Knoxville and the entire state of Tennessee.
Boy, I forgot about that.
About Schiano. Who did they end up getting? Was that when they got the Alabama defensive coordinator that just got fired last year for Heupel? Oh, his first name Rob. I don't remember. But they didn't hire Schiano.
Jeremy Pruitt?
Yeah, Jeremy Pruitt. Like I said,
Rob Pruitt?
Is there a Rob Pruitt? Is there a Rob Jeremy? Is there a Jeremy Rob? Jeremy Pruitt. They hire him instead of Greg Schiano, and it was a disaster.
I forgot Lane Kiffin was there for exactly one season. Went 7-6.
And then took the USC job.
Dipped.
Yep. Which, by the way, I mean, should he have gone after 1 year? It didn't work at USC, obviously, but I love how everybody talks about Lane Kiffin. It's like, oh, he continues to fail up. He didn't fail up when he, was recruiting his butt off at Tennessee, and USC was like, well, if he's recruiting there, and I know it's the SEC, we got a ton of kids in California that are leaving the state. We'll bring in Lane Kiffin. He wasn't failing. He didn't get fired at Tennessee and then get the USC job. And now he's at Ole Miss. So, and he went through the coach rehab program at Alabama as well with Nick Saban. And he's got Ole Miss playing good football.
By the way, Ian Rappaport just tweeted this out a couple minutes ago here on the Matt Rule front. My understanding of the contract of former Panthers coach Matt Rule, Carolina is on the hook for this season, but the salaries for the ensuing seasons are offset by what his future college job pays him, which is just so hilarious that everyone assumes he'll be back. Rule gets all $40 million, but Panthers likely only pay this year of it. Here's what I will add. So first, to boil it down, Panthers will pay out this year, and then if a college coach pays him more than that, or college team pays him more than that, then the Panthers are off the hook. I know coaches love coaching. And if you said, hey,
I was thinking the same thing.
If you said, hey, Josh, listen, you're getting fired from the job here in radio, but we will pay you for your work handsomely pay you for your work for the next few years as long as you don't do any more talking. Coaches coach, talkers talk. But I think if $40 million was the offer, specifically after spending, a decade grinding through college football at a breakneck pace before 3 years in the NFL, I have to imagine sleeping very little trying to make things work with the return of Cam Newton or worse at quarterback. Matt Rule, buddy, do you want to try 1 year off?
Take a couple years off.
Try one. Matt, try one. Do the Doug Peterson thing.
Go get a TV gig somewhere.
Get it. You know what? They're not going to offset your TV money.
Right. Is it just coaching? Or what if he's the offensive coordinator at like a high school? Does that offset like the $20,000 there? Does it offset?
Go take $10 million from Amazon work 1 day a week at their halftime show, and just take a year off, Matt. Just moisturize your skin and just take long baths for a year.
But is he coveted though? Like, would somebody want to go and hire him? Like, if Matt Rule's on the broadcast, you're going, oh, hell yeah, Matt Rule's there. Let me listen to this guy. Like,
I bet Big Noon Saturday
Drew
would
Brees
love
was
to have
coveted,
him.
but that didn't work out.
Amazon's probably a bad comp. Somebody put him on a college set. Let him replace Urban Meyer on the Fox set, because at least Matt Rule wasn't out here kicking Panthers as far as we could tell.
So he gets 8.8 per year with the Panthers. So his yearly salary is going to be offset.
He's going to get fired and get a raise.
So how much is the team going to pay him in college? Are they going to pay him $9 million right out of the gates first year?
I kind of think so.
I don't know, man.
I kind of think they will. That feels about right. 10 would not make me blink. I know that's absolutely nuts, but college football's nuts.
I think that's steep. I think he might get 5 or 6.
A year off failing at the NFL level too. Like this is his stock at its lowest.
I think he may get 5 or 6. I think the Panthers are still going to be paying some of that money. They're going to pay him the rest of the way.
He's got to take a year, because he would be more sought after a year away, right? Like you would get a little bit of the ambiance back, a little bit of the stink would waft away, and you'd begin talking yourself into Matt Rule program rebuilder.
Yeah, I don't see a team paying him like $9 million year number 1, unless there are 3 teams that say he's number 1 and whatever it takes. Matt Rule no matter what. If that's the view, then yeah, I think he could get that money. I don't know that there's going to be 3 teams that are going to say it's Matt Rule no matter what that we got to have. He was really good at Temple. He was really good at Baylor. But he left both schools before he could show that when he built it, he could sustain it. He's clearly good at building it to a certain level. Can he sustain it and continue to win after that? Certainly could. No reason to think that he could not if he's good enough to get it to that level. So, 913-912-4810. We played the clip of go ahead.
I was going to say one more thing just on the Panthers front. I just saw this tweet about rebuilding. Apparently, they only have 4 draft picks this year.
Oh, cool.
They're 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th. And this is a Matt Miller tweet where it's like they think that they're going to be offloading for picks. So, like, if anybody wants a player to help out their team, call the Panthers, because they are scarce on picks and they want some.
I don't know any team near us that would want DJ Moore.
No.
I don't
Couldn't
know
think of anybody.
Any team that would or could use DJ Moore on their team. Nobody.
Wouldn't be interested in Brian Burns either.
Yeah. Yuck.
Neither of them.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't try to swing both those guys in one
not at
package.
all.
Chiefs don't have any cap room right now, which is sort of annoying.
That is kind of an issue.
Could have converted some of that Patrick Mahomes salary early this offseason.
No, don't worry about it. They converted some Joe Tooney stuff, so they're stuck with him for 3 more years no matter what. So Chris Jones, and I say stuck, I mean, he's been a good left guard, but you don't need to paying $20+ million against the cap for a left guard. No. So Chris Jones talked on Saturday. We played the clip of him saying he was asked why the rushing defense has been so good, and his answer was Joe Cullen. Been in the system 4 years. What's the difference? Joe Cullen was hired, and he's got him playing a certain way. He's got him motivated a certain way, and they do a thing called the wagon, where a different player leads the group in the drills, leads the group as the hype man, makes sure everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And he said that Colin Sanders / Saunders, by the way, he said Sanders. Colin Saunders is on the wagon right now. So good for him, man. I'm glad he's getting his life together. And Colin Saunders is the guy with the wagon. And, of course, the follow-up would be, so how do you get said wagon?
I don't honestly know. It's just however Joe's feeling, you get the wagon. But I think it's a great challenge because he puts it on 1 or 2 people to carry the group, lead the group, start every drill, making sure that person brings their energy to the group day in and day out.
Does he give it to somebody who had a good practice week or plays well in the game? Or how
no, there's no particular reason. He moves it around.
How do you get the wagon? I don't know.
I just think it's kind of interesting because one is apparently, he's been theoretically doing that all year, and we never heard about it until Chris Jones gave a little inkling of it on a Saturday press conference. With, as far as I could tell, not a whole lot of the usual cast all there. And you got Adam Teicher just saying, "Come on, what's the deal with this wagon?" But you also then get a little bit of a glimpse into how Joe Cullen in particular is doing things. We heard them talk a ton during the preseason as the season got on about how Willie Gay brought the juice, right? For the defense as a whole, but specifically for the linebackers, right? Chris Jones can be that guy on the defensive line, but sometimes his press conferences, he's really soft-spoken. I imagine he kind of has his days where he is loud and his days where he is quiet. I imagine every NFL team has sort of that rotation. George Karlaftis has the hashtag motor. He's a sponge motor, but he's probably not your loudest guy every day. Frank Clark can be, but I don't know that you want to be that guy in practice every single day. And so Joe Cullen having this mythical wagon with no rhyme or reason, no way to necessarily earn it or lose it, just it as needed gets passed around the defensive line group where he all of a sudden then is putting on somebody's shoulders. Maybe it's Chris Jones, the highly paid dude who's outrushing Aaron Donald this season, or maybe it's Colin Saunders, a guy who has been trying to hold on to a roster spot after being a relatively highly drafted pick a few years back, to a guy I'm sure like Tershawn Wharton, an undrafted free agent who's continued to see his role on this team grow. Like, those little things are the types of things that because we can't see them, we never talk about. We go, oh, okay, hey, do you guys have a good week in practice? Yeah, energy was good. Well, we never know why that really was. We don't know where that energy always comes from or what differentiates between a good week and a bad week unless coaches tell us, and they never do. So anytime you get a little glimpse into some of the intangible things like that, especially right after Chris Jones was talking about why Joe Cullen has improved this group as a whole, I love to get a little glimpse at how the coaches actually do their coaching, because it can vary so drastically, not just from team to team, but from coach to coach.
And the players don't know. So if Chris Jones doesn't know how you get or earn the guy who has the wagon that week to lead the defensive line, I would guess maybe it's who do we need? Like, is there somebody to tap into this week that we need to have a great practice or a great week of practice? Is this the guy that we want to say, all right, we need Frank Clark this week. It's time for Frank Clark. You got the wagon this week. You are in charge of the entire defensive line and making sure everybody is on point this year. It's your group. Take your responsibility. Chris Jones, it's your week. Colin Saunders, it's your week to have the wagon. If it's something like that, or if it's just random, like they just say, well, no, it's week 5, so we had Colin Saunders pegged for week 5. Like Juliet's soccer shots that she does for the 3-year-olds. Each week, one of the kids gets a Player of the Week award. One time it was given to a kid that wasn't there that day. So it seems to be random and just here are all the kids. Here are the weeks we have it. Here are the weeks we're going to give the kids that, Player of the Week. I don't know if it is that random. I'm assuming there's some sort of a rhyme or reason to it. But I think it's interesting that the players don't know how you get it or why you get it or how you earn getting the honor of being the wagon, having the wagon.
I think if you have the wagon,
driving the wagon, is it like the bandwagon?
I think of being a wagon on the back of a horse. So you are defensive linemen. These are some large human beings.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
it's not one horse.
You're the horse pulling the wagon. Is sort of how I think about it. But look, I mean, you certainly can't put the cart before it. That much we know.
How much horsepower would you need to pull that defensive line?
I imagine that Chris Jones, one of the most powerful people I could think of, would still have less power than a horse. So I guess he would be a fractional horsepower.
No, I mean, like, if you put the entire defensive line in a wagon, how many horses
would you need
horse-eye?
To pull?
That's the plural's.
It's plural's horse-eye.
Horse-eye, yeah. How many horse-eyes? How many horses would you need to pull that? Because one, I mean, poor horse if it's just one.
Well, if it's one of those Budweiser Clydesdales.
Yeah, but even those Budweiser, even in those commercials, there's a couple of them.
I would say minimum to pull the Chiefs' defensive line. I would say minimum you need at least 2 horse-eye because I want them to be able to see where they're going.
Mm-hmm. By the way, text came in and
take a long sip of my coffee till Jason gets my pun.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading a tweet that came in. I apologize.
Do you want some info on that?
On the horses?
Well,
let's get the info on the text line first.
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna go back and listen to the podcast to what Josh just said there.
Hey, you know what? You'll be really disappointed if you make all that effort for that joke.
I didn't read it because I was reading a tweet that came in.
You didn't listen to it because you're reading a tweet?
Yeah, that's right. I didn't listen to it. I didn't read it because I was hearing a tweet. But
It was a text.
This tweet comes in from Robert Sigrist and says, $20,000 to be a high school offensive coordinator, ? With some laughing emojis. Yeah, as soon as I said that, I'm like, yeah, 20,000. Maybe to be like the head coach, but also like probably not even that for the stipend. But if you're Matt Rule, would you do that? Like, is it in Texas?
You know
like,
what?
Where at? Like, right? I mean, but yeah, as soon as I said that, I'm like, yeah, that's not right. But I'm just going to gloss over it and continue because that's not really the point. But you're right, Robert.
If Matt Rule wants to make that kind of money as a high school or maybe even a lower level college coach, he's going to have to go coach Brett Favre's daughter's volleyball team.
Now, I got that, and I heard it, and I appreciate it. What's the going rate for a high school offensive coordinator? 1,000? Would that be the stipend?
I have
like 500, 1,000.
No idea
For a high school offensive coordinator, depending on how good the team is. I want the information on how many horse eyes it would take to pull the entire D line.
So I just Googled how much weight can a horse pull. A horse can usually pull 1/10 of its body weight in a dead weight. For example, a 2,000-pound horse can pull about a 200-pound log just like laying on the ground.
Okay. Is a 2,000-pound horse a quote-unquote normal-sized horse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas on a wheeled cart, for example, the horse can pull about 1.5 times its body weight. So a 2,000-pound horse can pull about 3,000 pounds.
If they're on wheels. But if they're on a blocking sled, let's say it's somewhere in the middle, right? Where it's not quite dead weight, but it's still pretty close.
Then you're going to need several horses.
So we're going to need several horses to pull let's say, Frank Clark's probably around that 250, a little less. Chris Jones probably around that 3. Colin Saunders is over 3. You know, we're doing some quick math here.
Oh, I'm doing the math right now.
You got a band. You got a band across that defensive line. You're probably
actually
a little over
2,800 pounds. 2,835 pounds if you take the entire defensive line.
The whole depth chart.
Well, yeah,
that. Hold on, no, Jason, that's not what. How many pounds did you say for the whole depth chart?
I got a minus Colin Saunders 324. So
what's your total number there?
Well,
for the entirety of the depth chart,
2,511 without Colin Saunders.
Well, clearly you're also not counting the practice squad because Danny Shelton is like that on his own.
Practice squad doesn't count.
Okay.
I'm not counting the practice squad. They're not riding along.
Got it. Okay, so
2,835 with the active roster defensive line that would be on this wagon.
Got it.
So
this is becoming a math problem. But so you want to take Colin Saunders off since he's the one.
2,511 without Colin Saunders.
Okay. So Beards, what's that come out to?
What's the poundage that the horses can pull?
About 1.5 times its weight. So we'll just go
on wheels.
On wheels.
So one horse could pull the entire Chiefs defensive line in a cart with wheels. Because that's about 3,000 pounds for about a 2,000-pound horse.
So basically, a Clydesdale could do that on its own.
Okay, so you're right. You nailed it. Clydesdale.
No, that's not right because Clyde's not nearly that big.
What if you added Pacheco?
He might be able to do it, actually.
He runs so hard.
You
know what he's going to do? He's going to pull with all of his might, and he's going to be stomping the ground while he's trying to pull because the man runs with so much anger. He hurts the ground when he runs.
Now, this says adult male Clydesdales measure 17 to 19 hands, but for a football team, you want to have 22 hands on the field at a time just for your team.
Hands are the height, by the way, not the weight.
That doesn't feel like a hand would be very heavy.
Yeah, hands are the height for horses. They are measured in hands.
You're going to need more hands, but 17 to 19 hands isn't enough.
Yeah, but that's the height. We're looking at weight. How much does an adult Clydesdale weigh?
1,700 to 2,200.
Yeah,
that's right.
So one Clydesdale could pull the whole thing.
Right, absolutely.
So we figured it out. There we go.
But now we've got eyes and hands, and I've got kilograms here.
No. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about...
I'm worried about Colin Saunders, man. I'm going to say he's questionable tonight just purely because of how much weight he's had to pull all week.
Yeah,
Not to mention carrying all these hands.
Yeah. Don't count on Colin Saunders. Don't count on Colin Saunders to have a big game tonight. He's going to be tired.
Horses don't even have hands.
All right. Quit horsing around.
Boo. Nay.
We'll talk some college football coming up next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
John Elway will not play. You're going to have to trade him at. Well, he could still draft you and then trade you.
Nay.
Well, you don't have a choice. If he drafts you, then he can trade you.
It was a John Elway.
I got it.
Damn it. I just went right on past it.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon, our NFL insider from ESPN. Mick Shaffer joins us at 1 o'clock. We got to learn funniest best. We'll get back into some Chiefs and Raiders as that game going on tonight. Arrowhead Stadium filling up, partying, in the line, in the parking lot, in the stadium. You got 3 parties going on when the nationally televised night games take place. Which, by the way, the national TV games are 11-4 on the under this year. The under is 11-4 this year in nationally televised games.
The over/under did not tempt me here.
One
tonight.
of those overs was Chiefs Bucks, by the way. Just as a heads up,
that makes sense.
Overs was now one of the unders was Chiefs Chargers.
I inch towards the over here because I think that the Raiders have a better chance of keeping up with the offense on the field than they do in a lower scoring game, I guess. But I don't feel great about it. I feel better about the Chiefs -7 than I do the over/under. I might do some little prop exploring at some point here.
52?
Bring some heat for the show. I don't know. Find your little touchdown score prop.
See, I'm thinking
on
something like
DraftKings.
37-17. And
Right,
so
and that ends
would
up
be 54.
scraping you
So
over.
I would hit the over on that one. So
that is why I ended up leaning towards the overs when we had to do it again for our picks that you can watch on the social feeds and all of that. Because for the under to hit in this game, both teams have to not score. That's sort of the fun of the Chiefs. Like unless they win this game 31-10, it feels like there's a pretty good chance of it hitting the over, regardless of who wins it.
Mahomes has played the Raiders 8 times. 4 of those he's got to 40. The Chiefs offense has gotten into the 40s 4 of the 8 times they have played against the Raiders, and the fewest points they have scored is 28. Now, they did that in one quarter on the road a couple of years ago when it was Demarcus Robinson had those touchdowns in the second quarter, and they were playing in the dirt, which was a big deal. It's a big deal the whole week leading up to playing in the dirt there in Oakland against the Raiders. That's the fewest amount of points they've scored. 28, 32, 35, 35, 40, 40, 41, 48 that they have put up against the Raiders. So that's why I would probably go over, is because, I don't know that the Raiders are going to get to 20 or 24. So it's going to be the Chiefs needing to get you to the over 52. But I think the Chiefs are going to get there.
Also, on
Not to 52, but to 40 or to 35.
Never mind. False alarm. I was saying on DraftKings, it's now 7.5.
What?
Tell me if you know what this is. It only jumps to 7.5 once you've enabled same-game parlays.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that.
I don't know what's going on there, but I was checking out what the parlay table was looking like and to see if there are any odds that jumped out to me. You turn on same-game parlays, and all of a sudden, it's the Raiders getting 7.5.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if there's a little value in there, if maybe you like the Raiders, or if that's telling you that you got to stick with your guns on the 7.
The total drops to 51.5, though, on that same game parlay instead of 52.
I wonder if they just like to have those be half points on the same game parlay so they don't have any on the nose.
Could be.
But if that is the logic, if you liked the Raiders, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I'm also good.
I'm
but
good with
if
that.
you like the Raiders or the over, though, because it drops from 52 to 51.5 in the over-under. It's all about those margins. You really gotta be ahead of the curve on these things.
It's all about winning in the margins. That's what it is about.
Can't
913
wait for them to score 12 total points in this game.
913-912-4810 is the text line. 19 total points were scored in Ames, Iowa, with K-State and Iowa State. KU and TCU did exactly what we thought would happen in scoring 69 points. Nice. And Mizzou doing exactly what I thought they would do, which is have a close game, chance at the end, but ultimately not win. That's the theme of the season for Mizzou. So all 3 schools, I had TCU minus the points and money line. I thought TCU would win. I thought it would be right around 7. I didn't think it would be right at 7, or I wouldn't have taken TCU minus the points. I would have teased them down to like 6.5 or 6 or whatever, or just bought down the point spread. But I thought KU had a chance to win the game. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout in any way, shape, or form. KU's too well coached. And Jalen Daniels is too good of a playmaker.
This is all with Jalen Daniels presumably behind center,
right,
too.
absolutely.
I mean,
so all of those things going into it, if you had told me that Jalen Daniels was going to get injured, I would have put a whole lot of money on TCU minus the points.
I would have stuck my heel in the dirt and made a 180.
A whole lot of money on TCU minus the points. That's maybe the biggest takeaway from that game. I know that KU lost. And I know Jalen Daniels getting injured could be, overly detrimental to this season. Jason Bean was good, but now teams are preparing specifically for Jason Bean and not the running and the passing. They're preparing specifically for the passing of Kansas. But the takeaway is, even when the backup quarterback has to come in, and certainly game plan's going to have to change because of different quarterbacks, that they're still going out and putting up points. 4 touchdowns from Bean. 4 touchdowns from him in the second half. This is only because of, masochist and self-deprecating, but Brady Cook has 5 on the season. Brady Cook's got 5 touchdowns on the season. Jason Bean had 4 in the second half. Okay? They have 2 quarterbacks that are better than Missouri's best, or at least who Eli thinks is Missouri's best right now.
Mizzou had the best quarterback performance of their own game this week.
That is exactly right, except for the 4th and 2 32-yard run by Richardson. That ultimately...
basically a running back,
yes,
some are saying.
That got them... I think the next play is when they scored a touchdown to go up 24-10, which ultimately was enough to win the game because they won 24-17. But I don't know how long Jalen Daniels is going to be out. But I know that KU is still going to have a chance in these games. That one of my takeaways is the credit I've been giving to Lance Leipold in talking about the quarterback position. Adrian Martinez at K-State, when he plays like he's, played the last couple of weeks. Yesterday or Saturday wasn't great, but the quarterback position makes all the difference in the world. Look at Mizzou. If they had a better quarterback, they could have won at Auburn, against Georgia, and in Florida. We could be talking about a 5-1 team right now if they had better quarterback play. I don't think a better quarterback wins against K-State. They got their ass whipped in that game. But Jalen Daniels going down and the offense not missing a beat, I pull back a little bit on my, Lance Leipold has found a quarterback. He's got him playing well, and it's all the difference in the world when a guy like that can just go and make plays off script, can create, can keep drives alive. Jason Bean looked good, and I know he's not brand new. He didn't just come out from the stands like the 12th man at A&M and go play quarterback.
He's almost as unbrand new as a college football player can be.
Yeah, right.
I think he's in his 9th year of eligibility.
But he was dropping dimes.
But yes, absolutely.
Outside of the mistake that he made and the pass over the middle that was an interception, I mean, he was dropping dimes in that game, and there were big plays that were made by the offense. And what it is a team that, even in a loss, is playing with as much confidence as any team in America. And I don't see a game on their schedule except maybe Baylor. That's the one that I look at and I go, I'm not really giving them much of a chance to win there. Except maybe Baylor is the game that I look at and I go, I think they can win every single one of them. All of the other, they can certainly win this weekend at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's given up 104 points in the last 2 weeks. I think, 104-24 they've been outscored the last 2 games? So they could certainly win at Oklahoma this weekend. I don't think they win at Baylor. They got the week off, and then coming off a bye, they got Oklahoma State at home. I mean, you got a week off. Then you got Texas Tech on the road. That's obviously a winnable game. Not saying they will go down there and win, but it's winnable. Texas at home. They seem to always beat Texas, and we'll see if Texas is back to being what Texas has been known to be the last, 10 years by November 19th. And then at K-State. We'll see if Jalen Daniels is back by then and whatever else is going on around these 2 teams when they match up. But I think they could win any of the games that are left. And by the way, K-State's atop the standings in the Big 12. I don't care that Oklahoma State is 5-0 and TCU is 5-0. The Big 12 standings, they're 3-0. 2-0 for Oklahoma State and 2-0 for TCU. K-State's leading the Big 12 right now, sitting at 3-0, and it could lead into a massive game on November 26th against KU at home. But there's going to be a 5-week stretch for K-State now. They get the win against Iowa State, and the importance of the win against Iowa State is that you go into the bye, and you come back, and you're at top 15 TCU, home to top 10 Oklahoma State, home to top 25 Texas, at what I believe will be a top 25 team by the time they play in Baylor, and then at West Virginia, that, anybody can beat anybody in the Big 12. This 5-week stretch, starting next week for Kansas State, is crucial and just a Big 12 gauntlet of the next games. And we'll see how good this team is and how good Chris Kleiman is and how good the defense is, because you go through there and you go, 3-2? Take care of Kansas? You're 4-2? 7-2 on the season? You're playing in the Big 12 championship game.
Do you know that Kansas has a freshman quarterback named Jack Jackson?
Why is Jason Bean playing when you could play Jack Jackson?
I know he's a freshman.
Is there an X anywhere there?
No, it's exactly like you would spell it if your name was Jack and you were the son of a man named Jack. His name is Jack Jackson.
Feel like Bean should take a seat.
I feel like Jalen Daniels should be worried, honestly.
Yeah, see, that guy...
You don't lose your job to injury, but you might if his name is Jack Jackson.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That guy doesn't need to be at Kansas. That haircut says SEC.
He's from Dallas.
Okay, there you go.
This is how you know it's good stuff.
Which is now SEC country.
That's right.
With Texas and
That's right.
Texas and A&M, going to be there, both there.
You had yourself a high school quarterback out of Dallas named Jack Jackson. What else could you possibly ask for?
Bean, have a seat, man. I bet Jack Jackson's probably as good or better than Brady Cook.
What could you ever ask for?
A better
Not
QB
Jack Jackson.
At
a better quarterback.
Mizzou, so they don't suffer loss.
Hey, that's
many moral victories.
That's a moral victory.
They are.
A moral victory.
They are 5-1 this year in the moral victory standings. Moral victory plus actual victory. Missouri's 5-1. I don't understand why everybody's being so negative about Eli Drinkwitz.
Jack Jackson's undefeated.
Yeah. We'll take a timeout in Warzone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Hey, Clyde, how's it going?
Uh-oh, you cut out a little on us there, Michelle. Can you try again?
Can you guys hear me?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810. Text says, can we throw Leipold's name in for the Panthers head coaching job?
Have to. He's earned it. Maybe he can fix Baker.
Yeah, I know. Text says, it's easy to kick Mizzou right now. We all know Sam Horn is the QB of the future. Look, here's the thing.
Jason, will you please stop rooting against Mizzou so hard?
No, I don't.
Be nice to Mizzou, man.
I don't do that.
Beards and I are trying to be nice.
It's hard for me to do that even when I think it's in the best interest of that program to lose, whether it's basketball or football, to make a change, right? Even at the end of Barry Odom, it's like, losing would be better, but I can't quit you. So I get it, and I hear this all the time about, Brady Cook, and don't worry, it's Sam Horn. Sam Horn's the guy. Maybe they should play Sam Horn right now. I don't think the answer is to go to a true freshman in Sam Horn. And I think if Eli Drinkwitz really thought Sam Horn was ready to go right now, I think he would play him over Brady Cook, because they've lost 2 games on the road in the SEC because of mistakes by the quarterback. Against Auburn, Missouri's second possession, he threw an interception, and they started their second or third drive inside Mizzou's 20-yard line. They scored a touchdown. One of the 2 touchdowns they scored. They scored 14 points in regulation, did Auburn. One of those was when they started it inside the 20-yard line because of an interception by Brady Cook. Against Florida, he throws a pick 6, and he throws an interception at the 5-yard line. It's 10 points. Don't throw an interception on 3rd and 6 at the 5-yard line. It's 3rd and 6. You're putting points on the board. You were down 17-10 at that time. So it wouldn't have been where you tied the game. But if you're down 17-13 and they go and score a touchdown and go up 24-13, Mizzou then scored a touchdown after that, you'd have to go for 2. So you'd have to go for 2. You'd have to add another 2-point conversion onto what they already did, and everything else would have to happen exactly like it happened, where Florida was starting with the ball inside their 10. All of that stuff is different. But they could have had the ball late, down 3. Could have, if other things happened in their favor. See, to me, the issue is not like, well, should they go to Sam Horn right now or not? The issue is, in year 3, people are hoping that true freshmen will save Eli Drinkwitz's quarterback issue. In year 3, that's the issue at quarterback for Mizzou. Not, hey, patience, Sam Horn will be the guy. I hope he is. And I hope starting next year, well, by the way, he'd better be starting next year. Because if he's the guy and he's the one that was the chosen one and the one that you brought in to be the guy and a full year in the system, he should be starting game number 1 next year. And then, of course, it's go time because we'll see what Sam Horn can do. But then it'd be, well, he's a redshirt freshman, so still have patience. The issue is year 3, and you're still looking for someone to play just average quarterback and not cost you a game rather than somebody that you want to go out there and actually win you a game.
This is sort of a quarterback word cloud thing, but I promise it. There's a point to it. You go Brady Cook, Sam Horn, Jalen Daniels, Jason Bean, Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson, Baker Mayfield with his 6 head coaches in 5 years like we've been talking about. Quarterback word cloud. Here's the point. It's relatively easy to talk about quarterbacks. It's the most on an island position in this sport. So whenever we need one place to point to or to look at, we're going to go quarterback first. And if there's a chance to pick one defender, it'll be like a corner who gets burnt late on. Because it is hard to talk about a team sport with 11 moving pieces on each side. It's just a lot. It's difficult. It's hard to do in real time. Talking about quarterbacks is relatively easy because they get put on an island like a corner does.
Yeah, for sure.
When you have the conversation specifically like you're having about Mizzou, the direction of the program, is there the right guy in charge right now? You can get distracted by Sam Horn, Brady Cook, and all of that. But really, it is, what is the state of the program around him?
Yeah.
Is this an offense that's in a good position to help a quarterback succeed? If there's a point where the backup quarterback or your second option, your younger guy, is able to capitalize on things that your current starter is not, then you look to make a change. If you're changing quarterbacks because nothing is working, it probably says more about the mechanics around the quarterback than the guy himself.
And that's
where I'm afraid Mizzou might be at.
I do think they are better quarterback play away from having a much better record. Sure. The defense has some players. The offense has some players. The problem is the defense isn't deep with high-level players, so they can keep you in the game for only so long. And if your offense continues to fail and fail and fail, the defense is going to get tired at some point, which is what happens the last couple of weeks. Field Yates, Chiefs, next.
Locally owned Gravity Restaurant.
Looking to advance your nursing practice? The University of St. Mary offers flexible undergraduate and graduate programs. Apply at stmary.edu/nursing. Tonight on Monday Night Football, the Chiefs will host the Raiders, holding as 7-point favorites. Kicker Harrison Butker will be out once again, leaving Matthew Wright to take on kicking duties. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, defensive end Mike Dana, and guard Trey Smith are all questionable, but Juju is reportedly expected to play. It was a mixed bag for the local teams in college ball this weekend, as K-State got the lone victory and jumped up 3 spots to number 17 in this week's AP poll. The Jayhawks stayed put at number 19 after a 38-31 loss to TCU in Lawrence, but the loss of injured quarterback Jalen Daniels looms large, so we await reports on how much time Daniels will miss. Field Yates of ESPN joins the Zone next, right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. This is Sports Center.
Red Monday is brought to you by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Why are you getting things wrong, Jason?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. Mick Shaffer in the 1 o'clock hour. Let's talk some NFL football. Our NFL insider from ESPN joins us here in the Zone. It is Field Yates on a Monday. Field, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Nothing better than Monday Night Football. I'm sure Arrowhead will be absolutely rocking right now. The parking lots are probably already full, assuming they're allowed to enter this early on in the day.
You know, the parking lots or the line leading into the gates for the parking lots had cars at 3 this morning. So, yeah, people are ready to go. People are ready to go. They're out there. Hopefully, you know what, if you got Columbus Day off, you know, you didn't have to take a little vacation to go out there and enjoy yourself. But still, yeah, tonight's atmosphere should be pretty awesome. And I want to get your thoughts on Raiders-Chiefs here in just a little bit. But the news of the day in the NFL is that the Carolina Panthers have fired Matt Rule 5 games into year number 3 for him, and he was a coveted coach. I mean, the Giants, the Panthers, they're going back and forth trying to see who can land Matt Rule, who did a great job turning around Temple and Baylor, and it just didn't work. Did it all come down to the quarterback in your mind, that they couldn't find the right guy, or were there bigger issues around Matt Rule as an NFL coach that's, you know, weren't there with him as a college coach?
Yeah, I think that the quarterback issue is probably the one that was the most difficult for him to overcome. I think it was probably a multitude of factors, though. I think that, and I'm guilty of this often, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to take this step back and realize that, especially when a guy gets a head coaching job for the first time, and I'm not talking about a head coaching job at any level. I'm talking about an NFL head coaching job for the first time. It's probably smart of us to just reserve judgments, right? Like, absent Andy Reid going to Kansas City after, 18 years in Philadelphia, where he won a crap ton of games, took the Eagles to the Super Bowl, consistently had them in the playoffs. Like, you know that's a good coaching hire, right? But when we have these coaches who have been coordinators at the pro level, or head coaches at the college level, or neither, and they're getting an NFL job for the first time, and we're proclaiming them something that they end up not being, it's a reminder for us that it's just a guessing game, right? And Matt Rule arrived with a lot of praise and acclaim because he did an incredible job turning Temple and Baylor, not exactly power houses at the college level, at least not until recently for Baylor, and turn them into respectable programs. And the task is just so very different compared to what it's like to collect 53 players at the NFL level and win consistently. But the quarterback issue was the most glaring on the roster. The Panthers basically went for a round of Band-Aids for 3 straight years, or I guess 2.5 years, with Matt Rule as their head coach, not even 2.5 years. And ultimately, that was a big part of what undid him as the head coach.
So I'd have to go and look at all the different coaches that were hired in the time frame that, you know, Myles Garrett, who was on TV down in Atlanta, not Myles Garrett for the Cleveland Browns, but he put together a list of the college coaches who were hired directly from college since 2000 as first-time head coaches, like you've been talking about. And I'd have to go back and look at the coaches, all that have been hired since then, and to see how many were successful, what the quarterback situation was, because to see if there is a lesson here. The names that he tweeted out: Butch Davis, Steve Spurrier, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Schiano, Doug Marrone, Chip Kelly, Bill O'Brien, Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Petrino, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, and Matt Rule. That is a who's who of college coaches that failed in the NFL. A couple of them, had success. Jim Harbaugh, went to a Super Bowl. So he was certainly just fine in the NFL. So, I wonder, is there a lesson in that you just simply don't hire college coaches as first-time head coaches in the NFL? Or if we go back and look at all of the coaches that were hired over that time frame and to see how many of them actually succeeded versus how many of them failed and were fired, and maybe connect that with, okay, well, what did their quarterback situation look like? Who was hired into a good quarterback situation? Who was not? And then how did it go from there? Because I would guess that that's more closely correlated than college coach to NFL. Because if Nick Saban chooses Drew Brees over Dante Culpepper, I don't know that Nick Saban is at Alabama right now.
It's a great point, Jason, is that sometimes we grab on to a common denominator when it's not the only common denominator. But there have been cases of coaches going from the college to the pro level who have had good or at least decent quarterbacks, and they haven't panned out as planned. I think we are potentially witnessing one right now in Arizona, despite the fact that Cliff Kingsbury has helped them improve their win total year over year, and also earn an extension this offseason. I think that the results are very much a mixed bag, right? When you watch that Arizona team and you got an up-close and personal look just 4 Sundays ago, it strikes me as a team that is wildly inconsistent. Like, they might be a B-minus football team, but for quarters they'll be an A team, and then for longer stretches they'll be a D team. So I don't know exactly if I can pin the tail on the donkey of what's wrong with these college coaches, if it is an epidemic or if this is something that the sample size just isn't large enough, because there have been a couple of Pete Carrolls and Jimmy Johnsons and things like that did succeed at both levels. But I just think that one thing that I almost wish we would just change our criteria a little bit in terms of how we evaluate what would make a good NFL head coaching candidate. And I think, this is a deeper conversation we could probably have at some point during the off season. One of the most important realities is that owners are extremely influenced by public perception and the media. And the reality is that those of us in the media are oftentimes pushing for candidates that it's not like we've worked with a lot of them, right? Like, I can't sit here and tell you that, if 6 months from now, however long it is, 3.5 months from right now, like, I've never spent a day working alongside Leslie Frazier, who might be a great head coach if he gets another job after he's currently the Bills' defensive coordinator, right? But my belief in him is not based off of something that I spent a day doing with him or any other coach, right? That's just one example. It's just sometimes we get ahead of ourselves in proclaiming these guys as elite candidates or something that we do or don't know, and sometimes we're correct, right? I mean, for all I know, Leslie Frazier could be a great head coach if he gets a second shot, in the same way that other guys who I think are going to be good head coaches again, whether it's Dan Quinn or whoever it is, I think could be good head coaches one day again. But oftentimes, like, we're just banking on things that we hear, not things that we necessarily know. And how many guys have been slam dunks that turned out not to be? The answer is plenty. It's going to continue to happen, and I think Matt Rule is the latest testament to that.
Yeah, visiting with Field Yates from ESPN. He is our NFL insider, and we're talking about the NFL, what happened this weekend, and, of course, we'll get into Chiefs and Raiders as well. Is there anybody in the NFL field, is there anybody in the NFL that is better at their job than Justin Tucker is at his? Like, I mean,
I always say that the largest gap is between Justin Tucker and the next best kicker in the NFL, who I don't even know who that is. Like, I'm not sure who it is, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
it feels
I'm with
like
you.
It changes year over year, right? I know people will probably say Aaron Donald, and that's a compelling case as well, right? But it's just a little difficult to quantify the job that Aaron Donald does as easily as we can quantify Justin Tucker's job, right? I mean, I know that there are sacks and there are people who actually use PFF grades and things like that, tackles, et cetera, right? But there are plays that Aaron Donald gets no credit in the box for whatsoever that are also magnificent, right? Whether it's eating up 2 blockers, whether it's, diverting traffic so that somebody else can skate free for a sack, you name it, all this stuff is just absurd, right? But I think Justin Tucker, I mean, I think it's hard because, especially because this is fairly recent. I've always stopped short of saying that Justin Tucker is the greatest kicker of all time, only because he hasn't had the signature moments that Adam Vinatieri had. Vinatieri won 4 Super Bowls, greatest field goal in Super Bowl history, another game-winning field goal in a Super Bowl. So I think Vinatieri is like the most accomplished, most clutch. Tucker, I think, is the greatest, though, in terms of ability. And I know this sounds like a little nerdy, but it's remarkable to watch an NFL kicker do what he does. I've never been more certain in my life about anything than the fact that ball was going through the uprights last night.
Not only going through the uprights, I think one of the more amazing things is that he continues to put it right down the middle. And the next-gen stats that I think is just one of the more absurd stats is that, they used like the width of the field and the upright with the Y coordinate of 26.52. The exact middle of the field is 26.67. So therefore, if the uprights were a half a yard wide, Justin Tucker still would have made the kick.
That's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
If you, I think people were talking about, should they put uprights within uprights? And if you make it in between those uprights, you get like 4 points, and Justin Tucker would be the greatest kicker ever because then he'd be hitting 4-pointers. You're down 4. All right, well, line up Justin Tucker here and kick that 4-point field goal because he'll split the middle uprights as well. So just unbelievable. Like in the same game where Justin Tucker splits the uprights on a game-winning field goal, McPherson kicks a ball directly over the uprights. And I'll be honest, Field, I know the rule, but I've never seen a football hit directly on the goalpost and somehow bounce in. Never seen that happen before. Yet the rule is it has to be, completely outside? Like if it's right down the middle of the goalpost, it's good. I don't know. I've just never seen it ricochet and go completely against the laws of inertia to be able to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Yeah, you know what? I just feel like every doink that I remember is only like double doinks, right? Every other one's been like erased from my memory. I just recall the double doinks. But that was kind of fun last night. That was like a game moment last night when they showed McPherson reacting to Justin Tucker on the sidelines, kind of like, damn, he is good, you know? Like, and McPherson, by the way, we asked who's the second best kicker in the NFL. McPherson's in the conversation.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy's been money, and he's in he's 1.25 years into his career.
Mm-hmm. Visiting with Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. So a lot of people have been talking about the roughing the passer yesterday with Tom Brady, with Grady Jarrett getting called for the roughing the passer. I argue that I think that was only called because of the same type of tackle that Tua suffered on a Thursday night when his head was slammed to the ground, when he was flung that way, and Tom Brady was flung that way. I think Grady Jarrett was actually trying to hold Tom Brady up as he was getting him to the ground. The official can't see that. All he can see is Tom Brady complaining. And I wonder, Field, if that quarterback tackle of grabbing him and swinging him to the ground is going to be the next thing that's outlawed as roughing the passer in the NFL because of Tua and other quarterbacks that we might have seen as well suffer the same fate.
Yeah, it's a problem. And here's what I would say, Jason, is that like a lot of things. I have a lot of thoughts here. I'll try to truncate them. But first of all, what we ask of these defensive players to do is generally ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, like, not just – and I'm not just talking about roughing the passer penalties. I'm talking about defensive pass interference. I'm talking about holding. I'm talking about a whole litany of things, right? Like, it's inconsistent application consistently. Grady Jarrett, 320 pounds. He's coming down full strength and full speed on Tom Brady. Like, you're asking him to do matrix stuff in the middle of a tackle to avoid a roughing the passer penalty. I don't know what the issue was with what he did yesterday. But beyond all that, because I think everybody understands that, this is something that I've expressed to the NFL in the past, and I hope that at some point they change their minds on it, is that the NBA has what they call the 2-minute report, where at the end of every game, they go play-by-play, official call by official call, and they either say, yes, correct, no, incorrect, we should have called that. And doing that does not change the result of the game. Yeah. But it does acknowledge error, and what it does is it builds trust between the players and the refs, and it builds the human side of the game back. Hey, we're telling you we're going to screw up. It's a human element of the sport. And I feel like every time the NFL has some crappy call like yesterday, instead of saying, we blew it, I'm sorry, Atlanta Falcons fans. Instead, they come up with some lame justification via a pool report that makes the ref sound like he's trying to convince you that they made the right call. Like, I personally believe admitting error would go a long way in building trust back with the fans.
Yeah.
Because I get it. It's not about trust with the fans. It's about getting the right calls on the field. If games won or games lost or potentially won or lost, but it's a step in the right direction, and I feel like the NFL needs to be better.
Field Yates from ESPN is our guest NFL insider. What do you think of this Raiders team? I certainly think they're better than their record, but how good is this Raiders team coming to Arrowhead tonight?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. And here's the reason why. Is, they could easily be 2-2, but they aren't. You are what your record says you are. The offense should have been dominant on paper. It has not been dominant on paper. Defense has been a bit friskier than I thought they would be. They've got really, really good pass rushers. They got legit blue chippers on defense, and Max Crosby and certainly Chandler Jones, and they've gotten some good solid play from a couple of their young cornerbacks. Like, there's some pieces in place, no doubt about that. At the same time, this is a team that has had a couple of critical stop moments, and they haven't been able to come up with them. That game against the Arizona Cardinals is going to continue to bother me if I think about the Raiders season. And what I think happens tonight happens. They'll be 1-4. So I think they're solid. I don't think they're dominant yet. I think they've fallen short of expectations, and I think that tonight is not exactly a win-or-go-home game for them, but it's pretty close. I know the AFC has not been nearly as dominant as some thought it would be, specifically the AFC West outside of the Chiefs, but the Raiders' margin is extremely thin right now.
Yeah, I liked the Raiders last week against the Broncos to win and cover because I felt like they were a team that was viewing that game as like their season on the line. You're at home.
Desperate.
You are desperate. It's a little different when it's like you feel like your season may be on the line and you're desperate, but you're going up against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium on Monday night. It's a different beast rather than playing at home. Do you have a score in mind, Field, that you think we might see tonight?
We're going 31-20. Chiefs 31, Raiders 20. Can't wait for next Sunday, by the way, as well, because Chiefs-Bills is every person's football dream. In the next 6 days, the Chiefs are going to play Monday Night Football against the Raiders and Sunday afternoon against the Bills. A big week for the Chiefs. Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. Field, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, sir. As always, enjoy the football. We will talk next week. All righty. Sounds good. Talk to you soon. Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN. He is our NFL insider. He's got 31-20, so he's got them covering the 7, but a point below the total of 52. So we'll see. And again, we said the nationally televised games this year are 11-4. The under is hitting at 11-4. The Chiefs are 1-1 in that. They went over with the Bucs and under with the Chargers. I'm going with the over in this one as well. I think it's going to be like 37-17, something like that. We'll see. It's just so reassuring that you don't have a problem. No, I don't. Yeah, no, and that's the thing is that no one ever has. I think people have had a problem. No one, you don't. If I had a problem, I would have won a lot of money yesterday morning. Exactly. If I had a problem. Exactly. And I told you guys, I tweeted you guys. I'm like, I know you guys tease me. Wait, hold on. We're talking about teasers now. Hold on. What can I tease? Can I tease this up? Can I tease this down? That's Josh who has a problem. Whoa! I'm gonna tease. Josh, you have a problem. I'm ready to tease. Get it figured out. The Giants at halftime yesterday were plus 1,100 to win. And I was going to put like $5 on it to win like 60. But I didn't have the stones to even bet $5. And I even thought, I'm like, man, I really do think the way the second quarter went, I think the Giants are on par with the Packers here. There's some things that went in the Packers' favor, but I think the Giants really legitimately have a chance to win this game. But $5 is too rich for my blood. This is why you never entertain the idea that maybe you have a problem, because then little narc losers like Beards guilt you into not betting and taking free money. There's nothing about what Beards said or didn't say that would have changed my mind. That is me being incredibly cheap and frugal of saying,
Nah, $5 too rich for my. I could win.
Beards guilted you. You should have. Beards owes you $55.
Has nothing to do with
Beards owes you $55.
Why did I get roped into this?
I know, right?
Because you're the one that's insisted that Jason has a problem when he very clearly doesn't.
If Beards would have never said anything, that bet still would not have been placed. I still would have deleted that in the bet slip at DraftKings. Nah.
The only problem you have is denial.
I'll wait till there are more sure things this afternoon.
Yeah, of which there were so many.
The NFL is amazing. I was talking to a Todd, and I'm like, you could have teased the Lions against the Patriots.
And I would have.
The Lions are the number 1 scoring offense in the league,
Yeah.
and the Patriots were playing with a backup rookie quarterback. You could have teased them to plus 11.
Yeah.
And you would have been 18 points away from being able to even tie in that game. Wouldn't that feel like, you know what? I'm gonna tease this thing up to 11, and that's easy money. Like, I'm gonna win that thing. That's just fine.
Not just a backup quarterback. A backup quarterback whose name sounds like the secret identity of the Flash in like a knockoff TV show. Like, zoom, zoom, I'm Bailey Zappi. Woo! Like, all right, dude. Okay, or you have electricity powers? Very original. They skunked the Lions.
They're in the house. Somebody call Zappy.
Someone call Electric Man.
It's Zappy. He's here. That's right, folks. I'm here. I heard you've got a problem with illumination.
I'm here to light up this scoreboard and put your kneecaps back where they belong. Dan Campbell can't get them now. I'm Zappy.
I think the issue was probably more of the offense fumbling and giving the ball away and scores on the defensive side. Zappy was probably just fine. That's Hilltopper Bailey Zappy to you.
Sorry, my apologies.
WKU in the house. The topper. That's what he is.
Lions died on that hill.
Yeah.
Kneecaps and all.
Patriots topped them.
How funny is it that the Cardinals are running in-season Hard Knocks, by the way? Have you watched any? Is that out yet? I don't know what the whole production schedule is at all.
Never watched an episode in how many years have they done the in-season with the Cardinals?
Oh, they only had a couple in-season years. I think this is the first year it's Arizona, right?
I thought they did it with Arizona every year. I guess I'm wrong.
I don't know. Moral of the story, neither of us have caught a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
I will be very tempted to know if anything starts leaking its way out at in Glendale there, because that team's a mess.
Yeah, I've never watched I watch every single Hard Knocks preseason, but I've never watched an in-season Hard Knocks, which you would think maybe I would get more from the in-season rather than the preseason Hard Knocks, but I just never have. And I'm probably not going to watch.
It doesn't start airing until November. Yeah. So let's just see how things are going by November for the Arizona Cardinals, because I don't know. I feel like not great so far. I feel like we might get some stuff worth turning on HBO for this one.
I mean,
depends on how much they show us. Depends on their access.
You slide a yard short of the first down, and then you spike the ball on 3rd and 1. Instead of just doing like a quick quarterback sneak and spiking it, you slide a yard short to create 3rd and 1, and then you spike it, and then you're relying on Matt Amendola. And why in the hell would a team sign Matt Amendola when you just saw what he did against the Colts?
Here's my Matt Amendola.
Did he not show you enough in a game that you thought that, well, he's going to be different for us?
I feel bad for Matt Amendola.
He's getting paid.
Dude's in a tough spot out here. I don't imagine there's a whole lot of soothing in the money in that game check. I'm sure that game check is nice, but I'm not sure it's a terribly soothing feeling on the drive back home.
It's not Matt Rule's check that he's getting.
Correct. Matt Rule was much worse, much more entrusted at a much higher paid position.
It's more than my week's check.
I honestly, I don't know that for sure. I mean,
come on.
But I feel bad for Matt Amendola in that sense. That's dude's on an island there.
This team's not undefeated because of Matt Amendola.
Only
because of him. Nothing else happened in that game. It's only Amendola's fault.
Exactly. So I feel for Matt Amendola as a human being. I do not feel bad for the Arizona Cardinals, because I'm stealing this from Twitter. Somebody pointed this out. But the Cardinals' crappy field is the reason that Harrison Butker got hurt in the first place, which could directly correlate to the Chiefs not being undefeated. Harrison Butker out tonight, once again, will not kick for the Chiefs. And in a roundabout way, the Cardinals got the crappy kicker who the Chiefs had to have be crappy because the crappy field of the Arizona Cardinals knocked out their actual good kicker in week 1. So this is morally justified for the Cardinals. You know, I bet Matt Amendola has had a pretty tough month or so.
I watched almost every second of that game. This is not to say that nobody cares. This is just to me to explain why I watched the game.
Yeah.
I have Hurts and Goddard, and I was going up against somebody that had Hollywood Brown. So I was watching the game very, very intently because it was a close game back and forth. The amount of people that slipped and fell, how many times Jalen Hurts tried to cut and just slipped and fell. The Super Bowl is going to be played on that field. They are going to play the Super Bowl on that crappy field. How? You spent all of this money on that stadium and the awesome technology that the field rolls out and you can have the real grass and then you roll it back in and people can't stay upright on it. Every week somebody is slipping and falling. The divots in that field are awful.
There's a screenshot here. Not a screenshot, I guess, just a picture of Kyler Murray on that slide, giving himself up a little bit before the first down marker. There is a chunk of grass coming up, not with his knee, with his first cleat. Just when his foot came up, there is a chunk of grass that you could not get with the strongest wedge hack you've ever given. There is just a full-on divot just flying through the sky.
There's a cut that Jalen Hurts tried to make and he slipped, and it was a good half-yard divot where his foot slid right across, and it's just all dirt because all of the grass has been torn up. That's just there the rest of the game. You're not going to be out. You're not pouring sand in it like it's in the fairway to fix your divot. It's out there the rest of the game.
How have we not figured this out yet as a society?
The Super Bowl is on that field.
There's got to be a safe and non-destructive and relatively grass-like alternative out here.
I just hope the Chiefs don't get injured there in the Super Bowl. Anybody slipping on that field again. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Alexa, tell the government that I did pay my taxes this year. Thank you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Mick Shaffer joins us in the 1 o'clock hour. We got Learn Funniest Best coming our way as well in the 1 o'clock hour. Chiefs and Raiders tonight. Can't wait for Bart Scott to eventually, at some point, eat his words this year. Because for the Chiefs to not make the playoffs, they would have to not win the West. Tonight would go a long way for them to not win the West for Bart Scott if he thinks that's going to happen for the Raiders to win. Chiefs is a 7-point favorite at DraftKings. But one of the things that people are talking about online, even though it's leading into the Raiders game, we talked with Field Yates about how big this week is for the Chiefs and how big Arrowhead Stadium is this week, that tonight you get the Raiders on Monday Night Football, and 6 days later you get the Bills Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead. And it could be the first game at Arrowhead ever for Patrick Mahomes to be an underdog. Right now, the Chiefs against the Bills are getting 2.5 points at DraftKings. The Chiefs are 2.5-point dogs against the Bills for Sunday, and the money line is plus 115 for the Chiefs to win at home. I don't know the next time you'll get plus odds for the Chiefs to win at home if Patrick Mahomes is healthy. Like, it's not going to happen again this year if the Chiefs are healthy. Next year, year after that, I don't know. And I'm wondering what the line, if the Chiefs go out and put up 40 points on the Raiders and win like 40-21 or something like that, what's the line going to be? Because it's coming off of Bills beating Steelers 38-3. Chiefs haven't played this week. I don't know that they'll be dogs by the time the game rolls around. So if you want to get the Chiefs with 2.5 points, you can even, buy a half point to go up to 3 at home. Yeah, I jump on that because I don't know what it's going to be come game time. It might be a pick'em at game time.
I was thinking, you mentioned it during the break that it was at 2.5 over on DraftKings. I was thinking about this yesterday when I saw it opened at +1. It was the very first line I saw. I'm not sure where that began, but I just don't see that line moving the other way tonight. I don't know, like you said, I mean, if they lay an egg, if the
moving
Chiefs,
the other way is in like +3 or +3.5 towards the Chiefs.
Yeah. Where if you right now like the Chiefs against the Bills, I think this is the time to bet on it.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, if you're walking the line or whatever, doesn't, who's to say? But I have a very hard time seeing the Chiefs get so throttled tonight that they end up getting more points or a better line against the Bills. I could easily see them winning this game by 15 or 20 points, and then it being a pick-em, it being a 1 or a 1.5 point game, the money line odds being virtually even. So yeah, I just drifted over to our friends at DraftKings and took a little look at a little bit on the a little 10 maybe on the money line, a little 10 on the +2.5, just see what it feels like to bet on the Chiefs getting points. I'm not sure I've ever done that before. Think about that. Like, I definitely haven't this year, which is the only time I would have done it because that's
not at home.
Gambling in Kansas is legal.
Not at home, not a home game.
Never.
And of course we'll talk this week about the Bills will have the revenge factor and the emotions of being out at Arrowhead Stadium, and we'll see. But they got the Raiders tonight, which has been just a dominant performance in wins and losses for Patrick Mahomes. Not this last year, but in 2020, the games were closer. They found a way to win those, but games were closer. 2019 is when they lost to the Raiders. Was it? No, it was 2020 they lost to the Raiders, right? At home. And then they won on the road with the Mahomes great play to Travis Kelce.
Yes.
So they lost.
I'm so bad at remembering years, but yes.
Because 2019.
John Gruden got fired mid-season last year. That was a full Gruden year.
Because the
2020 was when they lost.
The Run It Back tour, the only loss for the starters was the Raiders at home.
There you go.
And that was a game that was, we've talked about it, that it was odd. It was a BS holding penalty on Kelechi Osemele. That was a huge touchdown that was called back, and then KO blew out both knees on the next play.
Yeah.
There was Travis Kelce, who was so mad at himself after that. We weren't in the locker room or anything, and we didn't hear from Travis Kelce for like 3 weeks after that. And that's when Travis Kelce said that the Raiders game was his fault, that the interception that Mahomes threw, that Kelce, they have some leeway to run some routes, and he decided to go over the linebacker towards the safety, and his job was to actually go underneath to take the safety out of that. But he saw the linebacker where he was and freelanced and went behind him, and then that kept the safety over there, who then intercepted Patrick Mahomes when he was throwing it to the next level. And Kelce took responsibility for that, was mad at himself, said it was his fault. They didn't lose again until the Super Bowl when all the injuries were ravaged and everything. That was the next time that the starters lost after that game. But it has been dominant performances from the Chiefs against the Raiders in the time with Patrick Mahomes. His record is 7-1. The average score in the 8 games is 37-19 with Chiefs and Raiders.
That's pretty good.
37-19, which is why I'm feeling something like 37-17 around there for tonight. But 37-19 is the average score. Patrick Mahomes against the Raiders in the 8 games is averaging 318 yards per game. In the 8 games, he has 22 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He has a 112.4 quarterback rating and an 83.9 QBR against the Raiders, which is the second highest QBR against one specific team in NFL history, with a minimum 6 starts against an opposing team. The only one that's higher is Tom Brady, oddly enough, against the Steelers, has a higher QBR, and then Tom Brady is third with his QBR against, I believe, the Colts, which is, credit to Tom Brady. I mean, he's the GOAT. His 2 highest teams QBR are the Steelers and Colts. And those were some great contests with the Patriots and Colts. And that's a Steelers team that was always so good defensively when he was with New England. So that's
games he needed to be goatish in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But number 2 all time is Patrick Mahomes against the Raiders. He simply eats. And this Raiders team this year is 4th from the bottom in pressure rate, is 3rd from the bottom in air yards per attempt, and is 26th in air yards allowed this year. Sacks, they're getting there. They're able to put, able to bring the quarterback down when they get there. They got a couple of good guys, but overall just consistent pressure hasn't necessarily been there, and the secondary has been awful. And Patrick Mahomes, again, has averaged 3 touchdowns per game and 318 yards per game. He also has 2 rushing touchdowns in the 8 games that he's played against the Raiders. He's been awesome in general, but he's at another level against the Raiders. And that's why tonight, I think the Chiefs put up, I said 37-17, but I think they can get to the 40s. Half the time the Chiefs have played against the Raiders with Patrick Mahomes, they've scored in the 40s.
Yeah.
4 of the 8 games, they've got to the 40s. Like, this matchup, we talk about the Colts, right? You and I have had the conversation going back to the Colts and how confident we were about that game. This matchup should be Chiefs through the air doing whatever they want. Should be.
This is also, maybe I'm just beginning to start my evolution into old football guy because I don't love the way I'm going to frame all this. But you just talked about Patrick Mahomes, my favorite thing in the world to do. And now I'm going to say the sentence, Jason, let's talk about the trenches.
What?
I know. This is where I am again. Let's talk about establishing the run. No, not the last part, but the trenches for real. Because coming into this year, we talked about this on the show some just from like an AFC West macro perspective. The Raiders' offensive line had disaster potential. And so far this year, it has been less than that. It has been less than a disaster. I'm not sure that Derek Carr is feeling all of the joys of a healthy pocket, but it hasn't been an absolute nightmare. And as you've said, they have Max Crosby. They are able to create a little bit of pressure, specifically with him. Chandler Jones is sort of a weird one. We'll see how that all comes together. But I really do think a lot of this game can come back down to both trenches because I think both of those edge in favor of the Chiefs. I think that this offensive line, even with Trey Smith being banged up and questionable, if it's Nick Allegretti even, I feel perfectly fine with that. The Chiefs should win both trench matchups. They should have the advantage when the offense is out there. And if Patrick Mahomes can actually play football with time in the pocket or even time to buy more time for himself outside of the pocket, that is a guillotine drop for opposing defenses. On the other side, if Derek Carr is actually consistently hurried, if this Raiders offensive line is forced on its heels for a good chunk of time, it might not matter how open Devontae Adams or Darren Waller or Hunter Renfrow may be. That's a great trio of weapons right there. Really excellent. And frankly, matchups that they will eventually win. I don't know how the Chiefs are going to handle all of this. I don't know if L'Jarius Sneed is going to be asked to play a little bigger to handle Darren Waller out of the slot, or if he's going to have to deal with Hunter Renfrow. I don't know if they're going to put Devontae Adams in the slot enough that ends up on Sneed. That's fine. L'Jarius Sneed might be able to handle any one of those three matchups, which is a fascinating matchup to look at. Who else is able to step in? Is Rashad Fenton one-on-one against one of those guys? Trent McDuffie won't be back until next week at the earliest. It doesn't think he's tracking that way. There are just so many matchups that revolve around both of the quarterbacks that I think it can be Patrick Mahomes feasts against the Raiders, but also how will the Chiefs help accentuate that tonight? And I think they're just really, really well equipped to handle most of those matchups. Particularly that makes me feel, as we get closer and closer to the game, makes me feel a little bit better about this being higher scoring, and that's still playing right into the Chiefs' favor.
Yeah, I mean, what did Cynthia Freeland say? The Chiefs' defensive line is a nightmare, and the Raiders' interior offensive line is a nightmare for themselves. Like the interior offensive line for the Raiders is a nightmare
for the Raiders.
For the Raiders.
Right.
And also awesome for the Chiefs.
Right.
Like it is an issue in tonight's game that this Chiefs team should be able to go out and play well. I think it's a game in which it comes down to Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller, and obviously Derek Carr. Because I don't expect Josh Jacobs to get much tonight. I
don't either.
I think the Chiefs' rushing defense is legit.
Yep.
You know, we were asked on Sunday Sound Off last night what aspect in the running game for the Chiefs' offense defense has a better chance of staying. The way the Chiefs' run defense is, or the way the Chiefs have run the football offensively, especially the way they did against the Bucs. Like, which has a better chance of staying successful? And my answer was it's the run defense, because the rushing offense struggled against the Colts, struggled against the Chargers. I mean, the yards per carry was inflated with Clyde Edwards-Helaire's 52-yard run. The Buccaneers, we talked about, what was so impressive about that is there wasn't really one run that inflated it. It felt like, here's a handoff, 7 yards. Here's a handoff, 6 yards. Here's a handoff, 8 yards. Like, it felt like what the average yards per carry was is what they were getting on each and every play, and it wasn't just averaging it out, right? Against the Chargers, a 52-yard run for Clyde Edwards-Helaire changes things when he ends up with 90 yards on the day in what that offense and what the night looked like with them and their inability to run the football. But if you look at the running backs they've gone up against, Connor and Benjamin in week number 1, Eckler and Kelly in week number 2, Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines in week number 3, and then Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White in week number 4. Those running backs are averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Those running backs. Not the overall teams are averaging that. And, they gave up 80 yards rushing and Jalen Hurts picked up 45. And that's when they hand the ball off, the opposing teams are averaging barely over 3 yards per carry. That, to me, has staying power because you're talking about 4 different types of offenses. One in which the quarterback runs, and Connor's been really good playing off of that. One in which the quarterback can do a lot of different things in Herbert, and they have a dynamic running back, or at least a running back that can do both things. That can run the ball, catch it out of the backfield. You got to worry about him in all different places. An offense whose entire system is based around establishing that running back who's the best in the NFL. And then an offense that has Tom Brady that uses Leonard Fournette a lot, and they were able to rush the football yesterday, were the Buccaneers against the Falcons.
While missing 2.5 starters.
You're right, yeah.
They've been able to do that without their most important linebacker. I know Nick Bolton, Twitter will come for me, but whatever.
Most athletic?
Certainly their most athletic linebacker. Their highest investment in the cornerback position in the era of this general manager, and a role-playing defensive end who has been getting starter levels of work. And still, everything you just said holds up. That is depth sustainable.
Yep.
That is non-ideal circumstances sustainable. The running game gets to exist in an ideal circumstance because the alternative that defenses have to worry about is Patrick Mahomes throwing the football. I think they're both pretty sustainable. I think the defense has been doing it with at least a few fingers tied behind their back, if not a whole hand.
Yeah, I think this is a legit defense, and I think the running defense is here to stay the way that they have played. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I'm kind of feeling like Twitter has less of a bot problem and more of a butt problem.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Is the NFC East the best division in football?
Obviously. Like we all said in the preseason. Not even a question.
5-0, 4-1, 4-1. The Commanders are 1-4. Their one win being that comeback win against the Jags in week number 1.
Truly remarkable what that division has turned into. Meanwhile, the NFC West can't buy a bucket.
Yeah. The only other division with a team above 500 in third place is the AFC East. The Dolphins and Jets are both 3-2. So 4-1 Buffalo and then 3-2, 3-2. Every other division, the third place team is sitting at 2-3. The NFC East third place team is 4-1.
Everybody expected the Jets and the Giants to be better than the Rams.
Jets and the Giants.
The team that won the Super Bowl.
7-3. They are combined 7-3 through 5 weeks of the season so far. Did you see Jair? Maybe this is one of your Learn Funniest Best, so I apologize.
Nope, wasn't.
But Jair Alexander with the Packers, they lost to the Giants yesterday in London. And after the game, they said, "Are you concerned?" And he said, "If we lose to the Jets, I'll be more concerned." And then Rodgers found out about that. And Rodgers publicly went after Jair, didn't say his name, said, "He and I are tight. But I don't want anybody talking about a loss because I believe in you can manifest things into the world. And if you start talking about losing, then you're going to lose." Also, the Jets clearly used the Tyreek Hill saying who about the Jets to their advantage. Now Jair Alexander says, "Oh, there's no need to worry unless we lose to the Jets. Then we need to worry."
Are you suffering?
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is going to be so stupid, but here we go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so we're hanging out with Mick Shaffer. He is presented by Kona Big Wave. Take a little break in single task tonight with a Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing Company. Do we have the breaking news sounder thingy?
I don't know if there's anything.
Beards?
Whoa, breaking news!
We do have breaking news. Injury reports that are going on with the Chiefs and Raiders. There is news of somebody that is out tonight that will not, and kind of a big deal. Bill Self is not going to bang the drum anymore.
He is
inactive.
Listed as out and inactive.
Called up from the practice squad.
He had something come up, apparently, but Bill Self was announced earlier this week that he would be the one banging the drum tonight for the Chiefs and Raiders game. That is now going to be Mike Matheny. No, Bobby Witt Jr. will be banging the drum for the Chiefs tonight. Bobby Witt Jr.
It went from...
Thank you. That is the end of the breaking news.
It went from 35 to 40% of the crowd cheering for
That's
Bill
right.
Self to about 99 to 100%.
That's a good point.
Cheering tonight for Bobby Witt Jr.
That's a good point. Yep, there would be some boos there probably with Bill Self. Boo! Get somebody else to bang the drum. I don't know why.
Is
the drum.
that what Missouri fans sound
No, that's
like,
just
Jason?
anybody that's K-State fans too.
They're
Wow,
in Missouri.
so you
There's
think
gonna be-
all K-State fans...
In Mizzou.
Wow, Jason.
That drink, yes. That's right. Everybody that's drunk that is a Mizzou or K-State fan that would be booing Bill Self sounds like that.
You know, I've been defending you to K-State fans for a while, but I'm starting to think they might have a point. You hate
is that
them.
right?
You hate K-State fans.
that right?
That's
I
so
know.
weird.
I know.
I hate K-State so much.
I know. I need to stop winning money on K-State. I hate them so much. I need to. Hey, I'll tell you this much. I appreciate K-State's defense. I appreciate the K-State defense on Saturday night.
I walked by
I did
Jason
too.
in the hallway earlier, and
Yeah.
he went, "Moi." I'm like,
Almost
what?
like drive by drive. I appreciated them.
Yes, especially there in the fourth quarter when Iowa State got the ball twice at midfield, down a point, and got a total of 7 yards on those two drives. Thank you, K-State defense. I appreciate that because the parlay that I had K-State, just money line, I needed it. I needed it to come through.
Nobody cares.
Beards,
they
you
do.
got it. Here's the thing, man.
They do.
I've been waiting for you for like 3 minutes. It felt like an hour and a half just now. You need to get it. I know that, like, look, I know that you yourself are not like super into the sports betting. I need you to just dip your toe in a little bit so you can start to hear it before it's explicit. Because
Yeah.
they were talking about their bets for a couple minutes
I was also
there.
setting up other stuff before I went to do that.
What could you possibly have been setting up?
But they never use one of the buzzwords of,
No.
you know, parlay or whatever. So they're talking about appreciate. You know, I really appreciated K-State's K-State's defense on a drive-to-drive basis. That's ramping up gambling
Oh, I
talk.
figured.
We gotta,
Yeah.
we'll keep signaling you.
Because it might be Mick's learned funniest or best from the weekend, so I don't want to give away the.
There's no might about it, boys.
It is
Good.
very good.
All three.
Yeah, there may be something along those lines that is included in my learned funniest best, but I've got like 3 of each, so I can adjust if somebody else has that as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810.
Mick, you want to be the next head coach of the Panthers?
I would love to be the next head coach of the Panthers because you guys said it earlier. It said you don't have to be good at the job. Just get the job.
just get the job.
You are set for life.
He's owed $40 million.
Unless there are offset clauses apparently that if he takes a college job, he will only make the money from the college, right, up to whatever that rate is for the $40 million over the rest of the deal. Why is it so hard to get fired football coaches to just take like 2 years off and just get paid for nothing? Because Matt Rule has that option.
$8.8 million is what he's going to get per year.
And it seems like everybody thinks he's going to go basically work for the same amount of money, but go be back on the college grind again. We need an intervention, Mick. Talk to these coaches. Talk to Matt Rule for me, please.
No, I agree. Listen, if I got that job, I would conduct an experiment. I would tell all my coaches that we're doing 40-hour work weeks. That's it.
I love
that counts travel and game time.
Good.
We're practicing at 3. Okay, that means we can play golf from 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Every day.
Good.
Bring your clubs to the office. downtime is big, right? I feel like a lot of times
be around your family.
There is a threshold. Be around your family.
Yeah.
Hey, practice is over. We're done. We're home by 6. There is a threshold, and I'm sure it's beyond 40 hours a week of like, okay, what paralysis by analysis. You're overworked. You can't find anything more, in that, New Orleans Saints defense of the, hundreds of hours of film you've watched. There's nothing else left to mine and uncover. In fact, you've spun yourselves in circles. You should have stopped, hours ago. So I would conduct an experiment knowing that I've got the bag at the end of this, and I'll probably fail in this whole deal, but it's going to be like, hey, no overtime, boys, okay? See your families, have a good time, get a couple days off a week. We'll see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
See if maybe we'll be trendsetters. Maybe we'll be pioneers in this whole endeavor. Because before like 10 years ago, it was padded practices every single day of the week. Maybe a walkthrough the day before the game at all levels. We're hitting. And then some coaches, Mike Gundy was at the forefront of this. It's like, we do it like 1 day a week. Like we'll go hard in August, then we're in padded practice 1 day a week. And now it's less than 1 day a week in the NFL. You have padded practices.
He's going to
get
get
something. Hey, Panthers, just give me a call.
$8.8 million a year for the next 4 years if he never does anything. Different drive than I, probably. If he goes back and goes,
they love it, right? It's their passion.
It's
they
a passion, and do you feel like, okay, if I'm not doing anything,
you're seen as a failure? I want to go
right. What's my fulfillment during the day besides, being rich? I just don't. I mean, $9 million for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm probably just going to take some time off.
Yeah,
I'll probably just, I don't know, retire. Yeah. If I got $9 million given to me over the next 4 years, a year.
What do you think the biggest reason is why all these college coaches who are so successful before and after their NFL coaching gigs, why they just can't hack it in the NFL? My theory is that, like, okay, you're used to.
Is that a pun on purpose?
What'd I say?
Can't hack it.
It was pun on accident.
But he went not from the college ranks, though.
Pun on accident.
He also can't do what his last name is.
Oh.
My theory is that, okay, it's still easy to kind of boss around 18 to 21-year-olds, right? And you get to that level where it's 22 to 35-year-olds. These are men, and you have to instill discipline and all that stuff.
And they make more than you do.
They make a lot more than you do. Mm-hmm. But you got to handle those guys differently. You can't just be an AH to them, right? They can't just be nonstop verbal abuse. It's got to be more of a man-to-man type approach. And I don't know if that's the case. That's just my theory. That maybe they lose the locker room very quickly.
You can't just kick your kicker and have them be better at it.
It turns out.
That doesn't work.
You can kick 20-year-old kickers, right? It's that old adage.
And suddenly,
it's the old adage. You can kick a 20-year-old kicker, just not a 25-year-old kicker.
Yeah, and you kick a 20-year-old kicker, all of a sudden, they start kicking better. It's just science. It's just how it works. I can't explain it. I just see it with my own eyes.
So, in the base salary for this year, the most money being made, and obviously cap hit and everything else is different than just the base salary, because Shaq Thompson's cap hit is $13.1 million. Christian McCaffrey is $8.8. But like base salary, signing bonus, things like that are restructured, you've got McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, Shaq Thompson, Taylor Moton that made more this year than Matt Rule's $8.8 million. Like, that's how much he's making. I mean, but still.
And there's a lot of teams that have a lot more players than that.
Absolutely. I just, one of the things I brought up with Field Yates is, this guy down in Atlanta put the list together, which anybody could do. He just has compiled it in a tweet.
What was his name again?
Myles Garrett is his name. He's
if you want to look it up yourself, by the way.
Does he spell it M-Y?
It's M-I-L-E-S. That is what cost me my first Twitter.
He's got miles to go.
Yeah. So here are the names that he put together. These are the names of the head coaches, first-time head coaches directly from college. Butch Davis, Steve Spurrier, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Schiano, Doug Marrone, Chip Kelly, Bill O'Brien, Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Petrino, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Matt Rule. It's a lot of failure in there.
What's the combined win percentage?
That's a
Does
great
he have
point.
the?
No, he just.
I was
has,
guessing like 350 or something
Right.
like that. Bill O'Brien might be one of the more successful ones on that list.
Yeah.
At least he lasted a few years.
It would be, yeah.
And he says, perhaps there's a lesson here. And I understand like where he's coming from in the overall grouping. And I think even if you take a couple of those coaches and say, well, yeah, but Jim Harbaugh went to a Super Bowl and Bill O'Brien actually had some success with the Houston Texans and was up by 24 in the divisional round against the Chiefs, who ended up going on to win the Super Bowl. So there was some success there, and he was fired, and the GM was a laughing stock, and all the other stuff that happened. And so those names that are brought up, there are a couple of exceptions there. I don't know that the lesson is just specifically you take a guy from college and he's a first-time head coach in the NFL, he's going to fail. I brought up with Field Yates that, I mean, going back and looking, I don't know what the quarterback situation was for all of these different coaches. I also don't know what the hit rate was on every other coach that was hired at that time. Because you've got Belichick and Andy Reid and Pete Carroll in Seattle, Bruce Arians in Arizona and Tampa, that was successful in a couple of, like the coaches that have been hired that have stayed around and not been fired and not been a failure along the way, I'd say the hit rate is not exactly that much worse than the college guys.
There are a ton of coordinators, NFL coordinators, taking head coaching jobs who fail pretty quickly as well.
Right. And so like Bill O'Brien, he had Deshaun Watson. Turned out to be pretty good. Jim Harbaugh had Alex Smith and then Colin Kaepernick. Was pretty damn good. Went to a Super Bowl. The other guys with the quarterbacks, I don't know. Urban Meyer had Trevor Lawrence as a rookie, but it was, still somebody who was the number one overall draft pick. Nick Saban chose Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees. That was a mistake. Had he to do it over again, he probably would have. Now, he didn't exactly choose Culpepper over Drew Brees. Drew Brees ended up choosing New Orleans, but they brought Drew Brees down for a physical. And the way that Drew Brees tells the story is that he never met with Nick Saban. When he went to Miami, all he did was meet with the doctors to see if his arm would hold up with the torn labrum there from San Diego. And he went to New Orleans and never talked to a doctor. Right. Hung out the entire time with Sean Payton. They sat in a room and built an offense together. And Drew Brees was like, yeah, I'm going to New Orleans. Because he didn't want to go to New Orleans because Katrina had just hit. He talks about it. He's like, I feel bad now looking back, but I didn't want to have to deal with that and try to be the savior of a city. Katrina's going on. I get there. Now all of a sudden the franchise is going to be saved in the city because of me. He said, I wanted to go to Miami. We were taking my family to Miami. I get there. I don't meet with the coaches. They put me in the room with doctors all day. I got to New Orleans, and all we did was talk offense. Yeah. He's like, yeah, it was a no-brainer. So maybe Saban wanted Brees over Culpepper, but the way he treated the recruitment process or talking to the free agents, it worked out that he got Culpepper. Had he handled it differently, Drew Brees wanted to go to Miami. It didn't work out. Maybe Nick Saban is more successful there with Drew Brees, and he's not at Alabama right now being a stud. I don't know. All of those. Was Bobby Petrino the coach when that stuff happened with Michael Vick? Because I remember Bobby Petrino being hired.
There long.
It was like, hey, Vick is going to be the guy that Petrino's going to figure out. I might be wrong about that.
As he looks it up, I mean, it makes sense. Right. Saban, that was his approach to quarterbacks, or it's been his approach to quarterbacks at Alabama. Get the biggest dude possible, right? Alabama's quarterbacks are the same size as their linebackers, as their running backs, as their defensive ends. They're all just gigantic humans.
Yeah. And so
bring in Culpepper.
Steve Spurrier's mistake was getting the band from Florida back together. Was it Danny Warfel that he's like, yes. I got to have Warfel. I got to have Danny Warfel here. Okay. You see how that works. I'm just saying the connection between first-time head coach and quarterback that you have is probably more of an indication or a lesson to be learned rather than first-time college coach equals, or first-time head coach in the NFL from college equals failure in the NFL.
I think it was Bobby Petrino.
Per Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo, Panthers run game coordinator Al Holcomb is expected to be the new defensive coordinator.
Wait. Their offensive run game coordinator?
I guess so.
Yeah, the Chiefs, you got to hit
Yeah,
I can't remember who the Chiefs' run game coordinator is, but it's a defensive coach.
Isn't it?
I think it might be Brendan Daly.
I was
going to
say I thought it was Brendan Daly.
Who would essentially also he would be the defensive coordinator in waiting. I would think if Spags was away from the team or something.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Joe Cullen was a D coordinator with the Jags last year. Chris Jones loves himself some Joe Cullen. It might be an easy transition.
He's only been here for 1 year. Brendan Daly.
I know, but I'm saying
Brendan Daly is
coordinator.
now linebackers and run game coordinator.
Yeah.
I'm
just
and
saying
obviously Brendan Daly was a defensive line coach before this. So
sorry.
He's building out his defensive coordinator resume.
I mean,
All that to say that it's not a terribly bizarre thing for your run game coordinator to also be someone with defensive abilities.
Yeah,
I believe it was Bobby Petrino also this year with the Falcons there, where it was Jim Mora in 2006. Then in 2007 was 13 games of Bobby Petrino, 3 games of Emmett Thomas, offensive coordinator Hugh Jackson, by the way. And then that season was without Mike Vick, and then the next year was the Matt Ryan draft.
So the 2006 to 7 offseason is when the Michael Vick stuff.
Yeah, 2006 Michael Vick was playing for the Falcons. 2007 he was not
in Leavenworth. He was somewhere else.
Yes.
But yeah, so Petrino was going to go there to use Michael Vick in a way that we'd never seen quarterbacks be used before.
And then had to use Joey Harrington.
Yeah. Yep. And by the way, Lamar Jackson and this is sort of interesting in how good Michael Vick was. Lamar Jackson passed Michael Vick last night for the fewest games to get to 4,000 yards rushing. But Michael Vick how many designed runs were there from Michael Vick? With Lamar Jackson is the zone read, right? You stick it in the belly, you pull it, and then you run. That wasn't around at the time. Michael Vick was just like, all right, I got pressure, I'm scrambling, and now I'm Michael Vick out here in the open and amazing. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, just what would Michael Vick's running stats would be if you had the zone read, if you put him in an offense like the Baltimore Ravens, where it was, oh, by the way, your pass rush principles had better be on point or he's going to run down the field for 20, 30 yards. And oh, by the way, he'll just run it in a designed run too. And he was going to hand it off to the running back. And if you dive down, he's going to keep it and run around the edge. I do wonder what Michael Vick would have looked like in that offense. And I think Bobby Petrino is probably going to use him that way. But never happened. And Petrino stayed for 13 games and promised the owner, no, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. And 24 hours later was yelling, woo, pig suey.
This is it's a different era, obviously, but just taking Mike Vick in Atlanta, okay? Not any of the Andy Reid stuff on the other side of Leavenworth. In Atlanta, Mike Vick's completion percentage was 53.8%. Lamar Jackson, who just cannot throw a football to save his life, apparently, is at a 64 completion percentage, 64.1% on average over the course of his career. It has been above that every year except for his rookie season. This year, pending. It's right around there right now.
Yeah. He missed a couple big ones last night.
He did.
He did, and that's going to set the discourse back by 2 years because he was inaccurate when he was the only game on TV, which is
also
too bad for that.
Could have helped those that had Ravens -3. Last night. But he's better than Michael Vick. I mean, sorry. I know that people love themselves some Michael Vick, but Lamar Jackson's better than Michael Vick. He also has a league MVP.
It makes me mad that we don't talk about Lamar Jackson through more of that prism because he's just so much fun.
Vick never won a Heisman, did he?
No.
Who beat him out? Would that have been like...
Oh, wow. I should know this.
98. Was it like the Ron Dane kind of like Ricky
Ron
Williams
Ron
years?
Dane comes to mind for some
98,
reason.
99.
Oh no, it's the funniest name that I think
it wasn't Crouch, right?
May have
Chris
ever
Winkie.
won a Heisman.
Was it Winkie?
Chris Winkie was the last year. Yeah, that was Vick's last year before the draft, right? But here Vick was 6. But that's as a sophomore. This is 2000 though. His first year in the NFL was 2001. So in 2000, it was Chris Winkie, Josh Heupel, Drew Brees, LaDainian Tomlinson, Damian Anderson, Michael Vick.
Wow.
Who finished a couple votes ahead of Santana Moss.
So he wasn't even in New York then.
Would have been 6th.
I was trying to think if he ever went.
He was 3rd as a freshman
There you go.
in '99 behind Ron Dane and Joe Hamilton.
So that
and
was
then
the
ahead of
closest.
Drew Brees and Chad Pennington.
That was the closest, yeah. Joey Hamilton?
What did I say?
Said Joey Hamilton.
Joe Hamilton, Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Oh, I remember him.
Yep, I remember him too.
Quarterback.
I'm trying to
I
think
don't.
Yeah, quarterback. Yeah. God, number 10. It doesn't matter. It's a big dude. I remember that. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Learn funniest best from the weekend, and we'll get into some predictions of what we think Chiefs Raiders tonight. Arrowhead Stadium is going to be packed and loud. last game that they this is only the second home game, so it was Chargers and now Raiders at home. So you had Chargers Thursday Night Football when the crowd was just nuts. And they haven't had a home game since
three different days. The home games will be on the first 3 home games of the year. Thursday, Monday, and Sunday, and all 3 will be huge games.
Yep, absolutely. This week, I mean, in a matter of 6 days, Monday Night Football at home against the Raiders and the Bills, 3:25 on Sunday. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, learn funniest best next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I have lots of amoebas and bacteria swimming up in me.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Heading up until 2 o'clock, hanging out with Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, brought to you by Kona Big Wave. We got to learn funniest best here. What we learned from the weekend, the funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. We'll go around the room. See what that was.
My dad said he doesn't know what to make of the buzzer beater segment yet. I'm like, ooh, buzzer beater segment. Yeah, you know, you guys play buzzer beater. I'm like, oh, shot clock review. Yeah, buzzer beater.
But he's on the fence about it right now.
He's on the fence about
but
it.
It's not
I think we all are.
It's not a no.
It's not a no.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all it takes. You got to keep. You got to keep the dream alive.
It's not a no. I'm gonna get you to bet. I'm gonna get you to bet. I don't know how, but I'm gonna get you. All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line. What I learned over the weekend is if you sign Matt Amendola,
go Pokes,
you are destined to lose 20-17. That's what I learned over the weekend. You sign him at your own peril, you will lose 20-17. The next team he kicks for, I will go to DraftKings and put an exact score of 20-17.
I was going to say, that seems like that would be a bad thing for Vegas. It's just everybody knows.
Was that his first game with the Cardinals or his second?
It's a great question. I think it was his first game with the Cardinals.
Second would be even more eerie.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, which is what I'm a little worried about with Matthew Wright tonight. Is
Amendola got the same first name? Absolutely.
That's true.
You're in the weeds with these stats, man.
His name is longer. He's got a longer first name. Matthew is long for Matt.
He's got a shorter last name.
Oh, that's right.
I think he's Mr. Right.
I hope so. He was Mr. Right last week, but Amendola was Mr. Right at the time. But it would have been better if they had Mr. Right against the Colts, but they did not. Amendola was money against the Chargers until he was not against the Colts. So, you know what? How about this? Maybe don't let it come down to that. Maybe just go and beat the Raiders pretty good. But Matt Amendola and the Cardinals lose 20-17. That is familiar. What did you learn, Josh?
I learned that William Shatner had a very interesting view of his Blue Origin flight into space. He talked about that with Variety. Here's what William Shatner said, what he wrote about, again, his flight into space on one of the Blue Origin flights. Took a lot of famous people and whatnot. Quote, I had thought that going into space would be the ultimate catharsis of that connection I had been looking for between all living things, that being up there would be the next beautiful step to understanding the harmony of the universe. In the film Contact, when Jodie Foster's character goes to space and looks out into the heavens, she lets out an astonished whisper. They should have sent a poet. I had a different experience because I discovered that the beauty isn't out there, it's down here with all of us. Leaving that behind made my connection to our tiny planet even more profound. It was among the strongest feelings of grief I had ever encountered. The contrast between the vicious coldness of space and the warm nurturing of Earth below filled me with overwhelming sadness. Every day we are confronted with the knowledge of further destruction of the Earth at our hands, the extinction of animal species, of flora and fauna, things that took 5 billion years to evolve, and suddenly we will never see them again because of the interference of mankind. It filled me with dread. My trip to space was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it felt like a funeral.
That's one perspective of going to space.
Apparently, that's an entire thing. There's a name for this effect. And it is...
The emotional actor effect? Why are they so dramatic?
This is true for other astronauts as well.
To space was not what I was hoping for.
I need to find the name of this effect again. It's not it's not where I want it to be right now. But this is the thing that apparently astronauts have happen all the time. William Shatner went to space and experienced
got the sads.
Experienced the strong quote among the strongest feelings of grief I have ever encountered.
I've always wondered that, like when astronauts, if they're on a space station or something by themselves, is that the loneliest feeling in the history of loneliness?
It's called the overview effect. Not uncommon among many astronauts. Who experienced some of that same thing of being removed from Earth gives sort of this existential dread and grief feeling. It's very interesting.
Like even if you're lonely in your house, like you could go to the supermarket or drive around somewhere and see other people.
You can go see another person.
Yes.
Yeah.
when you are on the moon or out in you can't just walk out and be like, you know what, I'm kind of lonely. I'm going to call up a buddy and go watch a game at Johnny's real quick. Let's just get together. Feeling kind of sad.
Mick, you didn't bring Johnny's this time. You brought Johnny's last time. Is that not going to keep happening every time you come in with you?
Oh, is that the bad? I was supposed to bring it every day?
Yeah, every day forever.
It's a guy in the break room named Johnny.
You get taller in space, you know that?
Really?
Yeah, gravity's less.
That should be
you get lighter.
That should be a plus.
Yeah, you don't weigh as much either.
Mass
but I mean,
is the
you
same.
literally get taller, and then you come back and
do you get
come
shorter?
Yeah, gravity is a B.
Yeah,
I would be 6'6" if it weren't for gravity, at least.
Yeah, that's right. That's the only thing keeping you from being 6'6". All right, what did you learn, Mick?
I learned that if I'm going to make any sort of money in this whole DraftKings bet thing, nobody cares. I need to watch Iowa games and just bet on underwhelming performances. First of all, the over-under for Illinois-Iowa was 35.5. And I said aloud, I'm like, okay, they're trolling us now. That is a ridiculous over-under. I'm not going to take the sucker bet, and I did. I went over, like, okay, it's going to stop. They're going to have a couple touchdowns each side, right? A couple field goals. Took the over. I was 20 points away. The under hit 20 points under from what they set it at. And so I wised up, and I have a lot of Iowa buddies. I've talked about it before. I watch games with them. They watch the O State games, and the O State games are better. They're more fun to watch. And so I just started betting drive by drive, punt, Iowa, punt, Illinois, punt, Iowa, punt. I made so much money. It was great.
Incredible.
And then the K-State Iowa State game was on as well, because I got Iowa State guys there as well. The other TV, punt, 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 punt. I highly recommend it.
Brilliant.
It was the best feeling I've had since this gambling thing started on September 1st.
Need to just Iowa. What was the Iowa punts? -600. Like you had to bet.
They weren't great odds. I would bet $10 and win 14 back.
$10 for 4.
Yes.
Let me bet $20 to win 6.
Good news. Also, if you want to do this on Sundays in the future, this upcoming week on Mondays, you can just watch the Broncos. Yeah, I think that same strategy might work.
I had a tweet in my head and I forgot to tweet it out. At halftime, I was going to say, "Hey, just going to turn on this Broncos Colts Thursday night game at halftime to spice things up a bit." I would have worded it better than that, but looking for excitement. Yeah.
Yes. All right, Beards, what did you learn?
Let's see here. I've got a good stat here. Cooper Kupp, 49 receptions. Chicago Bears, 49 receptions.
Nice.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
They're not good.
Wow. Neither team in question there, really.
Yeah, both of them struggling. Rams really struggling.
Bears might have a better record.
But at least they have more receptions than the Bears.
That is shocking.
What is
They're not letting Justin Fields throw very much.
5 games.
Chicago's 2
They've
and 3.
completed less than 10 passes per game.
So the Bears are 2 and 3. The Rams are 2 and 3.
5 games, yeah.
And also
Is
the
that
Bengals
all?
are 2 and 3.
Is that Bears wide receivers? That is all Bears.
All I saw the stat was Bears receptions, 49 yards.
Even Fat Bears.
Lord, listen, Fat Bear Week. There's been some controversy in the voting on that. This isn't on my Learn Funniest Best, but
okay, we'll wait.
No, it's not. I don't have it. I just know that Matt Jarrett continues to be on the beat. You can follow him on Twitter for more on the questionable election coverage currently going on at Fat Bear Week right now. Real scandal.
As most people predicted, the Super Bowl participants last year start out 4 and 6 this year through the first 5 weeks, both 2 and 3 right now. All right, funniest for you, Josh.
Beards, this is the one I need the assist on. Funniest this week, courtesy of Tim Kirkshin.
The Big Dumper is his nickname. So I asked one of the teammates, why do you call him that? He goes, well, his butt is as big as a trailer. So I asked Cal Raleigh, and he said, yep, that's pretty accurate. So
Cal Raleigh, nickname, Big Dumper. Tim Kirkshin saying the phrase Big Dumper.
The Big Dumper.
I love Tim Kirkshin so much.
The Big Dumper.
So great.
A weird little man with a weird last name.
If anybody ever hasn't gotten it would be worth going back and listening to old episodes of the Le Batard Show with Tim Kirkshin, just being a baseball nerd, just laughing at funny looks likes. He did a great ESPN Daily with Pablo Torre right after he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Just seems like an absolute national treasure.
I don't know if anybody loves baseball more than Tim Kirkjian.
I don't know how you could.
People may love it as much, but I don't know that there's somebody that loves Tim Kirkjian more or loves baseball more than Tim Kirkjian. It's crazy. Funniest for you, Mick?
So there were a lot of funny game day signs in Lawrence. Like most of the time, the quality was there. I wanted more quantity. I mean, there's a lot of.
Oh, there was one really good one. It said Muck
whoa,
Fazoo.
whoa.
It said Muck
Oh, that's
Fazoo.
hilarious.
Yeah, I know.
Unique.
I know.
How'd they think of that?
I can't remember. It was weird because it was their game day, but they still had a sign about Mizzou. Anyway, go ahead.
Yep.
It was funny at
Nobody cares about them.
at Mizzou games. They just hold up a blank white sign because it looks sort of like a flag.
No, they don't really surrender until the fourth quarter. Anyway, go ahead, Mick.
There are a couple good ones that I like. Some runners up, like there's a picture of Aaron Judge, and it said Aaron Judge interrupted my sign.
That's good.
That's really good.
I like that.
I like
really
that.
good.
That's really good.
What was another one that was?
I'm always a fan of Birds Aren't Real. Always nice to see them
Birds Aren't Real is
represented.
good. Oh, another one said we put weights in fishes. That's just great.
Oh, I love that one.
Just topical.
That's great.
Funny, but you kind of had to be in the club. Got to be in the know.
Yes.
That was not a mainstream joke.
It's a stream joke.
It is. The funniest one I thought was it said, "Are you Iowa State's kicker?" And it had two boxes, yes and no. And around the yes box had 3 X's all around the box. None of them in the box.
That's really good.
I thought that was funny, and I thought it was good of the Iowa State kicker because he's a freshman in college, right? He bounced back and kicked very well with all the points for Iowa State on Saturday. So good for that kid bouncing back.
That's pretty good. I really like the Aaron Judge interrupted my sign. That's a great one. Beards, what was your funniest?
Oklahoma.
That's it.
They had 39 yards passing.
That's it. Just Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What's your funniest? Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The entire state.
I almost went Beards NBA with Oklahoma on Learn Funniest Best this week. I feel like I should have.
My funniest is.
Has anyone seen Lebo? Is Lebo okay?
We saw him earlier. He's fine.
I hope not.
He's fine.
He deserves some of these weekends.
He's fine on the outside.
He deserves some of these weeks.
He's had plenty of you know, happy
they
times.
They had fewer
with Oklahoma
passing
football.
yards than Texas had points.
They did.
49-39.
They've been outscored 104-24 in the last 2 weeks.
How did they get 24?
It's a miracle. They Brent Venables has the 4th largest points.
Oh God!
Yeah,
okay.
thank God.
Against the spread.
Long pause.
In a 3-game span for a first-year head coach, that he's minus 98 against the spread in a 3-game span. It's the 4th most in the last 30 years. Number 1 is Turner Gill, by the way. In 2010, for a 3-game span, was minus 109 against the spread. He was 109 points worse than the spread was.
Wow.
Brent
Nice to
Venables,
see,
the last 3 weeks, is 98 points worse than the spread. So that's rough. My funniest goes along with what Mick was talking about with the Iowa game. This is CBS Sports' college football writer, Shehan J. Azaria, says,
excuse you?
So if I understand right.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just try to help with the name. This was an alternative for me.
Yeah.
But I believe that it is Shehan Jayaraja.
Oh, yeah, it is Jaraja.
It's in his
Jaraja.
bio,
Sorry.
and I believe he's been a guest in the program.
It's
here on
Shehan
Sports
Jaraja.
Radio.
It is Jaraja.
Jaraja.
It is Jaraja. Once I heard it, then I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
You got it back.
It's Shehan Jaraja.
Shehan
That's right.
Jaraja.
Who's pretty good. He is on with the program. Had I known it was the same guy, then that would have been
Could have been
easier to
any
know.
Shehan Jaraja.
That's right. It's common name, typical biblical spelling. He said, he tweeted here, so if I understand right, Iowa just, and then ... punted from their own 16, recovered a muff at the Illinois 35, went 3 plays, losing 6 yards, and punted, forced a fumble, recovered at the 5, went 4 plays for minus 4 yards, and kicked a field goal. In all, a 15-play, minus 10-yard, 76 punt yard field goal drive for Iowa.
It didn't
Brilliant.
It didn't even feel like it was that good.
Brilliant. They punted from their own 16, and somehow they ended up at the 9-yard line to kick a field goal. After a muff
3
punt,
possessions later.
a muff punt, another punt from their own from the 41 of Illinois, and then a fumble, and then losing 4 more yards and then kicking a field goal. Took all that just to put 3 points on the board. Whoo, boy. Yeah, that was one of my funniest from the weekends. I had about 5 of them. What was the best for you, Mick?
The best for me is just the Big 12 standings in their current shape and form.
Yeah.
You have Kansas State up there at 3-0, followed by Oklahoma State and TCU. Kansas right there in the middle because of alphabetical order ahead of Texas, both 2-1.
Where's this going, Mick?
It's going to get to 10 here. I'll just skip ahead.
Skip ahead.
Oklahoma 0-3 in last place. Last place. After 3 games. We're approaching the halfway mark of the season.
It's a third of the games that they'll play in the Big 12.
Yeah, I was thinking 8. Yeah, 9. It's a third of the games.
Third of the games they played.
Still, 4 is going to be close whenever they lose this next week to KU. And so it is, I've been on this planet for 45 years. I've never seen anything like it. They've only lost 3 or more games in a conference season like 7 times in their history, like 100+ years. And so this is one of them. So take it in. Take it in.
Amazing.
And it helps, too, that they're jettisoning to the SEC.
Leaving. Yeah, but you know
Going
what?
bye-bye in the car.
So is Texas, and it's just, they're going to be so good in the SEC because Texas is back. They are back. What was the best for you, Beards?
So I don't know how many people know this or not, but I used to do weekend stuff here and like running games and all that stuff. And so when I opened my phone over the weekend and I saw Rays Guardians was going 15 innings, I had Vietnam-level flashbacks to the 18-inning baseball games that I had run that went until like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I went, oh, hey, I don't have to do that anymore. And I put my phone in my pocket and went along doing whatever else I was doing.
Good for
that
you,
was
man.
my best of the weekend.
Good for you. My best of the weekend was exactly 6 weeks to the day after being shot in an attempted carjacking. Brian Robinson returned to the field, carried the ball 9 times, 22 yards. Didn't have a great day, but who cares? He's out there playing. You thought maybe like he's shot in the leg. Like, is he going to recover as a running back? Is he going to play this year? 6 weeks later, he's out there and was the leading rusher for the Commanders in the game. So that was the best of the weekend, seeing that and the oddity of just 6 weeks to the day, not Monday. Just it was really cool to see that. What was your best, Josh?
Pretty much equally as serious and as important. I was at the Renaissance Festival on Saturday. It was a special day at the Renaissance Festival where they also had corgi races. Corgi's the Queen's dog, R.I.P. Queen E is what I always called her. That's what most of us who were close to said.
Absolutely.
But in the corgi races, they had several different heats. Every single time, of course, it was a thrill. One of the heats, I don't know that any of the corgis actually wanted to be running left or right, but in one of the races, there was a dog that we later learned was named Yoshi, as in the Mario dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yoshi was barking before the start, darted off like a jet immediately. I was looking around saying, will anyone please, DraftKings please, will anyone anywhere let me bet on Yoshi in the finals? I was desperately trying to start a sports book at the Renfest for the corgi races. I was unable to, and then Yoshi took the championship. So the rightful winner was crowned, but unfortunately I couldn't profit off of it.
It's too bad.
And Jason is the one that I am again concerned that may have a problem when it comes to betting on things. But if DraftKings next year could just get I'll be your informant, whatever I got to do to get us to be able to bet on the corgi races at the Renfest. That's the next sport for me, I believe.
And if there's one thing I've learned in this show is that everything we've learned from Josh means that I do have a problem.
I'm afraid that you might have a problem. 2-time champion now, back-to-back years for Yoshi. Didn't know that going into the day, but it's a dynasty now.
Every corgi race I've seen, there's a corgi, there's one dog that's leading like 90% of the way, and then just takes a sharp left turn, right? At the very end. Could have just won running away, and then it's pure chaos after that.
That's right.
And a lot of times the dog that starts the slowest ends up winning.
Sounds like they should play for the Ravens.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The more dead puppies there are in the world, the more that's going to dilute the cuteness of the puppies that we have right now. Less puppies means more cute, okay? They said it in Incredibles.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, the program comes your way at 2 o'clock. We'll get a prediction here for Chiefs and Raiders, what we think is going to happen tonight. But first, I appreciate those on Twitter that have alerted us that happy anniversary to those who celebrate. Happy anniversary to all of those who celebrate. 1 year ago tonight, Red Extreme and X Factor got in a fight.
Wow.
Yep.
October 10th against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. Red Extreme, X Factor, the most fight that anybody in that stadium put up that night. In an embarrassing loss to the Bills, Sunday Night Football. So happy anniversary to those who celebrate. Tonight they return to the scene at Arrowhead. Not they, I mean X does not return to the scene. He's been banned. He couldn't believe it. He was banned. But yes, it was 1 year ago.
If there ends up being a lightning delay at halftime tonight, I might just go home. That was one of the most miserable. We did a post-game show after the Chiefs-Bengals AFC Championship
Bills,
game.
Sunday Night Football.
The Bills blowout. It was extended at halftime. I believe that was also on your airwaves, unfortunately.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mick.
You really could have, I don't know, done anything for the production value of that game. I don't just black it out earlier.
It's broken in with some other, like, how about this?
That was
Heidi.
week 5.
How about Heidi? Anything. Time,
It just could not have been more painful. So as I was saying, AFC Championship game, Chiefs-Bengals post-game show, Chiefs-Buccaneers Super Bowl post-game show. I'm not sure there was a post-game show more miserable than Chiefs-Bills.
Yeah. I could see that.
There was that bad Steelers blowout game that was atrociously awful.
All right, I've got 37-17. Josh, what do you got?
I have made 15 different predictions. Chiefs by a lot. 50-7. No, 34-20.
34-20. Mick?
31-19. Just kind of a weird score and a weird game.
31-19. Beards?
Chiefs handle business. They win big. 3-2.
3-2. All right, let's see what happens. Beards has the under.
Beards should just be hammering the under every week. Just see if he ever gets one.
Beards and Mick have the under. Josh and I have the over on that.
Hey, that's true. That checked out. My mouth works.
How about that?
Very lucky
well
sometimes.
Done. Very well done. We'll see what happens. The program's got you the rest of the way. 5 o'clock will be the Central Bank of the Midwest pregame show right here on Sports Radio 810. And, of course, directly after the game is over,
hello,
you'll hear that guy.
It's me.
His name's Josh. Tune in. Should be a fun night. Program next.